is 100 years of history behind this race, but today all eyes are on the waters ahead for the 3,000 plus sailors about to face the most famous and demanding offshore race in the world. The ocean is calling.
It's an experience like no other experience around here.
We're all part of that history, we're part of an ongoing story.
It's like a siren call, it just draws us back.
It's a call of the wild. It's a fight to survive. Out there it is a jungle, it's hard. But I'm free, there's no bar.
I remember as a kid first hearing about this race, and I thought it was so challenging that I would never have a chance to do it.
It's iconic for all yachtsmen all around the world.
Going around that rock is going to be a pretty magical moment for everyone.
It's a call of the wild. It's a call of the wild.
Yes, the Rolex Fastnet race is back for its centenary edition, and the entry record has been smashed again as 450 boats from all over the world line up here on the Isle of Wight. From Cowes, they will head down the Solent into the English Channel and make that long journey up to the tip of Ireland and that beacon of light, the Fastnet Rock. There the boats will round the rock and head to the finish line in Cherbourg on Cotentin. If the past 100 years are anything to go by, it will be demanding, unpredictable and sometimes brutal on this near 700 nautical mile course. But the prize that awaits is one many sailors dream of for those in the IRC classes, the Fastnet Challenge Cup, adorned with some of sailing's legends. For others, there are records to beat. For this edition, the return of another historic cup at stake too. But for many, simply the pride in completing such a challenge on this scale is enough. 9 starts are on the card today. We begin with the Multihulls in just over 15 minutes' time. Good morning, bon matin, and welcome to the iconic Royal Yacht Squadron here in Cowes, which is the starting line this morning for what will be another incredible moment in sailing, another one to add to that list today as we kick off the centenary edition of the Rolex Fastnet race. And alongside me for the duration, we have Louis Habib, Dee Kafari and Hannah Diamond. Welcome, good morning, lovely to have you all. Look, Louis, I'll start with you because we were stood here 2 years ago in, let's just say, very, very different conditions. That was the 50th edition of this race, which felt hugely significant at the time. We're now talking about the centenary. What does that mean?
Well, for the Royal Ocean Racing Club, the centenary means everything. This club was founded in 1925 on this race. You know, it is literally the rock of the Royal Ocean Racing Club. And the first edition, we had 7 entries. And today we have about 450. So that's 10 decades of all sorts of changes. But there's the beginning and the end of the timeline. And if those 7 boats, the crews of those 7 boats could see this today, they'd have thought they'd landed on another planet.
And every edition feels so different, so iconic in its own way. I expect we get the same again today. And Dee, look, I know that you yourself have set records in multiple races of every kind across the world, but there is something about the Fastnet, isn't there? And it's something that appeals so widely to both Corinthians and, of course, to professionals alike.
Absolutely. I think it's a bucket list event for any sailor, and it's unique in the fact that professionals and Corinthian sailors are racing on the same patch of water in the same race against each other, and that's quite unique. And it's a really technical race. It's just short of 700 miles of very technical challenges throughout the whole race. No 2 races are ever the same. I've done a few and they're always a challenge.
Yeah, and there'll be quite a few out there today. 3,500 plus sailors out there today, Hannah. I mean, at this point, what does the prep look like? What are you doing? Where's your head at just minutes away from the start of the race?
Well, there's always a great buzz on the dock on a morning of a race like this, but most of the preparation will have been done over the last few months, weeks and days. Definitely yesterday would have been a busy day for all of the sailors racing today. And the preparation now looks quite different depending on what your class you're in. So we're coming up pretty close to the start of the old teams, the Multihulls, but some of the smaller boats have got a couple of hours left. So the boats that are out here ready, they're trying to get their head around the wind and build their strategy for their Solent exit, whereas some of the others will be just poking their head out of the Medina River, just hoisting their sails and getting their first feel of the buzz of the race start line.
You could really feel that as well. You can feel the atmosphere. The crowds are gathering around us here today. So let's just very quickly show you the schedule for today. We have 9 starts today. The first one of the Multihulls is just a few minutes away now, and we have every angle covered for you for this momentous race, from on the water and in the sky to the very first landmark of the race, which of course is Hurst Castle, iconic in itself. We're going to bring you every single start as it happens here today. We will have a few surprises, a few special guests along the way as well. But now let's check in with some other members of our crew who I would say arguably have the best seat in the house today. Let's head over to Nikki Henderson and Andy Rice. Hello, good morning.
Morning. Hi, Holly. Yes, thank you. We do indeed have a wonderful view from here, just a couple of 100 metres off the Isle of Wight, and not far from the start line. Nikki, I've got to say, happy birthday. What a day you've picked to have your birthday.
Yes, thank you, Andy. Yes, absolutely surrounded by just completely epic boats out here, everyone milling around. Probably a bit grateful that the wind's just started to poke its nose up.
What about you as a 3-time participant in this race? Are you grateful to be sitting here next to me, knowing that you can go back home this evening and enjoy your birthday on land, or would you like to be joining them on this start?
You know, it's always a bit of love or hate, but they've got an exciting race up ahead of them.
All right, well, there's a lot of traffic out here already. I think those 4 Ulteam Multihulls must be one of the most stressful parts of the race for them right now, just wanting to get cleanly away off this start line in just over 10 minutes from now.
We, as I say, are just minutes away. And Nikki, happy birthday. You kept that one quiet. Like they do say, there's no party like a Fastnet party, so you're in no better place today. But mentioning that weather, Hannah, you know, it is interesting because this is so different. I can't say that enough compared to the 2 last editions. Just talk us through some of the key takeaways from the forecast today.
Yeah, that's right. A really different outlook for today compared to the last 2 editions of the Rolex Fastnet, which I'm sure many of the sailors competing today will be really, really pleased about. We've got our predict wind, live wind out on the race course, showing a building breeze from the southwest, and that should continue to build throughout the day. So a slightly gentler start to the race, but by the time the sailors reach the Needles and Hurst Castle, there'll be a building breeze there definitely. We can take a look at the forecast for today at a couple of key points around the racetrack. So starting with between 10 to 14 knots from the southwest, really nice warm temperatures and some cloud cover at the moment, but that should clear as we go throughout the day. Nice flat water, and we can just see from our position here that the tide is just starting to ebb, and that should build throughout the day. So those boats starting a little bit later would have more positive tide taking them out towards the Needles. Where the wind will have built slightly, between 14 to 23 knots we could see by the time they reach the Needles, again from the west-southwest. Nice, lovely, warm temperatures on board. Again, quite flat water, and that tide again will be pushing them all the way out through to the Needles. By the time they reach Portland Bill, the wind will have moderated a little bit, and like you say, very, very different to conditions in the last couple of editions, where we had, 25, 30 knots, boats reporting much, much more than that when they were on the water as well. So really nice temperatures, a lovely day to get the Rolex Fastnet started here.
Really interesting. Look at that rainfall and cloud cover. Very different. I think it's going to be a fast one. And look, the history in this race certainly will not be lost on any of the crews as they prepare for their start. And here's just a little reminder of the century-old Fastnet story.
It's the roaring 20s, and as the world enters a new era, offshore sailing is about to change forever. British adventurer Weston Martyr has just completed the Newport Bermuda race, a 635 nautical mile sprint from the northeastern corner of the USA to Bermuda. He was inspired and wrote of his newfound love for the sport to magazines. Offshore sailing is without question the very finest sport a man can possibly engage in. For to play this game, it is necessary to possess in the very highest degree those hallmarks of a true sportsman: skill, courage, and endurance. Marsher proposed a similar race in Britain, one that would test those sporting skills he so eulogized. A course was chosen from the Isle of Wight to Fastnet Rock. Boats would round the rock and return to Plymouth, completing what was christened the Ocean Race. 7 yachts heard the starting gun at midday on the 15th of August 1925. The race was a resounding success, and from it, the Ocean Racing Club was born. Offshore racing's transformation from pastime to sport was in motion. In 1957, the first Admiral's Cup was held, with teams from all over the world competing over a series of races that culminated in the Fastnet. Entry numbers continued to rise, and when a brutal, unexpected storm in the 1979 race tragically claimed the lives of multiple yachtsmen competing, the sailing community rallied, committing themselves to new levels of safety and preparedness. The race continued into the 80s and beyond, drawing ever higher entry numbers. 1999 saw for the first, and so far only time, a female skipper crowned victor. The turn of the millennia brought in new entry classes, a new sponsor in Rolex, and in 2021, a new finish line. Now, 100 years and 50 editions on from that first race, over 3,500 sailors of different pedigree from every corner of the earth take to the water. The Fastnet Rock, with its mighty lighthouse, still stands sentinel, waiting to greet them.
So much history there, and you can see how much this race has evolved over the years, and all those boats of various different sizes. And that's what we want to talk about just now, Louis, because it is important to talk about the IRC rating, which means that all these different boats can compete together.
Yes, so about 380 of the Rolex Fastnet race fleet are racing under what we call an IRC. IRC is basically a certificate that all of those boats have to apply for. They put in their numbers, size of the sail, size of the boat, etc., and they get produced a TCC, which is another number, and you multiply however long it took you to do the race by that number, and that gives you your corrected time. Levels the playing field is the idea.
Yeah, so basically it's a bit like in golfing terms, like a handicap in golf to make sure everybody's on a level playing field. And look, it just means that this becomes a challenge for absolutely everybody, Dee. I mean, this is the Everest of sailing for so many people. Why is that?
Absolutely. It's unique, it's iconic, it's a classic, and everyone wants to tick it off their list. So whether it's your first time or your 20th Fastnet race, it's still a challenge and all to play for right until the very last boat finishes.
And we are just minutes away right now with the Admiral's Cup as well taking place. I can tell you that the island has certainly been a hive of activity over the last few days. But just in between the races and the training, the preparations, one of the most important traditions, the crew party. So, of course, we invited ourselves along to meet some of those racing today and find out what the Rolex Fastnet race means to them.
The Fastnet is like a very special race. There's always been fascination about it being a very tough race, long race, one of the few bucket list events you have to do when you're really into sailing.
I'm looking forward to the tight racing and pushing ourselves, pushing the boat to hopefully a good finish.
I think most of it is preparation. You have to prepare as a boat, as a team. You gotta have the right team together. You gotta do practice.
The racing is incredible, so close, especially double-handed. It's unfinished business, first, and second is the ultimate challenge of the amateur sailor.
Fastnet Rock offers all sorts of challenges. On one occasion I did actually hit part of the rock. On another occasion we caught a crab pot around the rock, so you just turn the corner and enjoy the run and the ride home.
So I'm most nervous about the number of competitors, the weather and currents and the tides. Most likely is probably everything that I'm excited about. I'm also anxious about because you just never know what's going to come up.
imagine manoeuvring 131 feet of trimaran. You'd have your heart in your mouth all the time.
They're absolute monsters, hugely powerful. They're the fastest yachts ever built.
So here we go, just minutes away now for the multi-hulls, just seconds now. And to take you through every twist and turn, we have Andy Rice, Nikki Henderson out in the water, and beside me here, Louis Habib and Dee Kafari. There we go. The signal has gone, and the multi-hulls are something special, aren't they?
Absolutely. This is one of the most exciting starts because you've got such a large number of multi-hulls. I think it's the most we've ever had. And the 4 spectacular ones are the old teams. 32 metres long, 23 metres wide, and the toughest thing for them is to get through the fleet of all the other boats to get to the start line so they can make a clean start, which is in 3 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, and like you say, these boats can absolutely fly, but in these sort of congested waters, caution can mean survival here.
Absolutely. If they don't get to the start line cleanly, then the whole race is finished. So the toughest time is being cautious now, making sure they get a clean start. And it's tough. It's a really big platform. It's 100 foot of platform to short tack out of the Solent. So this is the difficult part. If they get clean away at the needles, then that's the time to stretch their legs.
And Louis, you know, in this kind of early stage of the race, is this for you? Do you think this is about getting out clean, or are you already thinking ahead and trying to plan ahead for the weather that's coming?
Well, I think as Hannah Diamond said in that weather update, there's 20 knots of breeze outside the Solent. If you can get to that first and get away, you're on the conveyor belt, and the rest of your opposition, let's say, haven't. So I think this is a big deal to get out the Solent.
Yeah, this is the tricky bit. This is the bit that we'll be watching very, very closely. Just less than 2.5 minutes away from the start of this race. And we said earlier, given the conditions, potentially this is a very fast one this year. Do you think we could be on course for a course record?
Oh, wow. I honestly, I had a little chat with Dee before we went on air, and I think we're not seeing enough wind for records, but you never know in this race. And those old teams don't need a lot of wind to completely power up. Flat water. I mean, Dee knows an awful lot more about old teams than I do.
Well, we're going to see these guys round Land's End by midnight tonight. I mean, that's the reference. But it's whether it's a one-sided tack to the Fastnet Rock or whether they've actually got to tack to get there. That's going to be the critical thing of whether a record can be broken. As we know, the multi-hull record was set in the last edition by SVR. Different skipper and crew on board this time. But that record was 1 day, 8 hours, 38 minutes and 27 seconds. So it's going to be super exciting to watch their progress.
Yeah, 1.5 minutes away now. And Dee, this is actual we've got on screen. This is one that we will certainly be keeping an eye on today.
This is right. This is their first outing, fresh out the shed. It was Gitana 17. So this went around the world with Charles Cordelier in 50 days and set a solo record. It's got a really good pedigree. They've put it in refit. Anthony Marchand is the skipper on board, and we've got British sailor Alan Roberts on board with them as well.
Okay, so 1 minute to go. Dee, what is going through their minds right now? You've done this before many times. I mean, what those final preparations looking like?
Well, they will have put a plan into place, but actually whether they can execute that plan is the question because of the traffic around.
We shall see. Well, let's hand over now to Principal Race Officer Steve Cole. Steve, take it away.
2235 is now OCS. 2235 OCS. UAE 1111 is the closest boat to the line now, followed by FRA 168 with the rest of the fleet outside. UAE 1111, 20 seconds. OCS UAE 1111. FRA 168 is closest. 10. FRA 168 OCS, so 3 OCS. Okay, stand by for the numbers. UAE 1111, FRA 168 and 2235 OCS.
Okay, the multi-hulls are underway. Very early days there, very steady start, I would say. Louis, what do you make of this?
Yes, so for the viewers at home, you could hear Steve Cole calling OCS on 3 boats there. They're using a test rule here, so the boats don't return if they're over the start line. They continue. They have fouled the start, they were at the wrong side of the line. They get a 2-hour penalty. So that's a safety thing, stop them coming back. There's too many boats around to do that. One of the boats, OCS, was Perros Gurek, and that was the yellow boat. We call it the banana boat, Thierry Roger. And there you see it on screen. Now Thierry built this boat. He's a boat builder. He's been building Mocas and everything else, and he's sailing it all over the world. He got fed up with watching all these creations disappear, and he's got it himself. He's an absolutely lovely guy. He's not going to get line honours in a 36-foot boat. So, that, you know, being OCS, maybe it's just so he can get on the commentary, Dee. What do you think?
Well, there is an argument to say that if you're not going to win the start cleanly, go over early so everyone talks about you, and he's definitely secured that. I think if we look now at Banque Populaire, they're the furthest inshore of the big old teams. They will actually get a stronger tide advantage being closer to the shore. But ultimately, these boats are not so worried about the tide. They're looking for clean manoeuvres and to do as least manoeuvres as possible. Every time they tack, they almost stop virtually. But on board Banque Populaire, we've got British sailor Sam Goodchild joining the skipper, Armel Leclerc.
Interesting. One that we've not talked about just yet, SVR Lazartigue, and I imagine that we will be having a conversation about them along the way. What do you make of them?
Well, they were the first old team to get to the line. They hold the record. Tom Leperche is the skipper, but on board now has been a bit of a change. He's got Frank Camas with him, and they're going to be sailing double-handed at the end of the year in the Transat Café Law. But the talking point is Pete Burling joining that team. Fresh from gold medals in the Olympics, America's Cup wins, and winning the most recent SailGP event in Portsmouth just last weekend. So he's a real addition to that boat. He's really, really numbers orientated, engineering, mechanical, and that's exactly what SVR is all about. They've got hydraulic rams on everything, they've got load sensors on everything, and he's really been giving them a different perspective because he doesn't come from the offshore natural background. He has gone around the world, but he comes from a different viewpoint, and he's really been testing them and challenging them and asking questions. And they've been doing a fair amount of training, and they're looking pretty good at leading the multi-hull fleet out there of the big boats.
Yeah, an exciting boat, an exciting crew there, and smashing records as well. They set the line honours course record in 2023 as well.
Yeah, and I've got to say, Dee Kafari knows a thing or two about old teams.
Just a little bit.
What are you up to at the moment, Dee? Come on.
Well, I know I'm having the opportunity to sail one of these beasts, and they are absolutely incredible. And I've had to get used to sailing at 30 knots everywhere because it's just a whole different ball game. But I'm now on an old team in EDEX Sport with the famous Project CIC, and our ambition is to do what these guys are all lining up to do, which is the Jules Verne speed record around the world with an all-female crew. So, yeah, stepping up, and I feel like I'm learning to sail again.
Oh, I don't believe that. Remarkable. Who else are we seeing there? Let's head back down to the water now and get a little bit more analysis. Someone who's got a little bit closer to what's going on. Andy and Nikki, how's it looking?
Well, I was so impressed with SVR Lazartigue's start. They got ripping with about 1 minute 20 to go, and there was so much traffic around them from some of the smaller boats. And I can't help wondering if Pete Burling is having some kind of effect on that. Maybe he was pushing, because having won SailGP not far away in Portsmouth last weekend, where you win or lose a start by a fraction of a second, it seems like they weren't prepared to give a second away to the competitors, Nikki.
No, it was absolutely incredible. About, you know, a minute and a half before the line, everything went from relatively placid to they ramped up the speeds, and my goodness, it looked like they were going to run someone over at some point.
It looks like they've got away with it. On the other hand, quite a lackadaisical start by Banque Populaire, the last of the old teams to cross the line. As Dee said, maybe a slight tidal advantage being closer to the island side, but is that really going to help much in boats of these speeds?
You know, I think they've got a long race ahead. I mean, obviously it's a lot shorter than the smaller boats. I think the record is just over a day. But I think a clean start on a race like this is probably more important than anything. I mean, a 2-hour limit for those guys would be everything. So they definitely don't want that.
Big sigh of relief to get cleanly off this start line. No collisions so far, touch wood.
So far, so good. I find it interesting saying Banque Populaire, very lackadaisical start. We can see on board there very different visuals inside SVR. Let's have a look at this. What does that tell us about this team?
Well, that's the first tack, and Frank Camas there is coordinating. He's playing the piano, and the guys are working really hard to grind and get all those sails in. So they've just been over to the New Forest beach, and then now they're tacking out towards the island shore again.
Okay, well, that's one start down, 8 to go. Coming up next, of course, it is the Imocas, and that is the 4-minute warning, which tells us everything that we need to do. It is the turn of those flying machines, the eye-catching Imocas. Okay, so just over 3 minutes away from the start of the Imoca fleet. These are some of the most advanced offshore monohulls in the world. You can already see the tension building out there as they jockey for position on the Royal Yacht Squadron Line D. What can you tell us about these incredible machines?
Well, they're fresh. At the beginning of the year, they will have just come back in from the Vendée Globe solo around the world. So now they're actually sailing in a team setup. So there's 4 sailors on board and a media person, so we can share their stories and see from on board all the way along the race. And they've all come out of refit, so they will have had some work done and they will have tried to make little improvements. But the interesting thing, this Association Petit Prince with Keguené, that's Elodie Boniface's Imoca. It's brand new out of the shed for this season. She's aiming for the 2028 Vendée Globe. She's been a Figaro sailor, a mini sailor, and she's been taken under the wing. First race of the season, she came second. And Arkia Paprec skipper Johan Richomme, who's the one to watch normally, he said actually that this is the boat to beat. So she's already got a reputation straight into the Imoca fleet, so it's going to be really good, and I hope she has a great race.
It's almost a test then when you get a boat like that is just, as you say, brand new out of the box, because this class is all about resilience, isn't it? I mean, these boats, they're built to survive, that's what they can do. But this is the Fastnet, and this is one of the toughest stages tactically.
And that's right, and anything can happen to any boat at any time. And what they're trying to do is work on the edge. And on the edge means that sometimes you take it too far and you lose out because it breaks or you have to stop. But what's really impressive with the Imoca fleet, 3 of these skippers are female skippers. It's probably the most gender-orientated class we have on the water in the Fastnet race, apart from the many female sailors we have in the IRC fleet. But it's really nice to see the Imocas have reached that already. We've got Johan Richomme here on Paprec Arkia, and on board with him is Emily Grassi.
Yeah, this is a boat that came second in the Imoca class in 2023.
By 4 minutes to Charlie Dallin winning the record. Yeah, so he's got something to do. He also came second on the Vendée Globe. So he really wants to make a difference here.
What's going through their minds? You know, they'll be hitting the Irish Sea a little bit later. Will this be a case of being flat out or trying to preserve the boat?
I think with the forecast they've got nothing to lose. Johan Richomme's really confident with his boat. He wants to be at 100% all the time. What they're getting now is to try and be at pace when they cross the start line. And that's the hard thing, managing this tide that's underneath them and helping them towards the west.
And you've mentioned it already, your experience within the Vendée Globe. How do these skippers prepare themselves mentally for such a busy, close quarter start like this?
This is the stressful bit. Getting out the Solent is the hardest bit of the race. Once they get into open water, then they feel much happier.
Okay, not long to go now, so let's get back over to Principal Race Officer Steve Cole.
The Paprec building up speed now, coming to this end of the line. Line will be clear. All clear, line clear.
Okay, so let's talk through what we're seeing here. How does it look to you?
Really nice acceleration. Johan Rishon there on Arkea Praprick absolutely accelerated at the gun. So did Elodie Bonifus on the sail next to her. But Justine Metro there, one of the three sisters, all in racing the Fastnet. We've got one on Actuel, we've got one on an Ocean 50, and Juju skippering her boat in the Imoca class. But they all had a really nice start. What was really disappointing was to see Sam Davis on Initiative Kerr yet to cross the line, coming in on starboard, so she's going to have to come all the way over to the green and then tack. But it's a long race and they've got a lot of manoeuvres to do to get out the Solent.
Yeah, and just a little shout out, we have Southampton, the city here, with 2 universities in it, very good university sailing teams. And a few years back, Johan Richmond was one of those students. He studied at Southampton University, and right now he's one of the best Imoca sailors in the world, arguably one of the favourites for the next Vendée Globe.
Most definitely, and he's got a new boat in build already, and he's been very instrumental in the design and the thought process behind that because of his engineering background.
And tell us a little bit about we've got one boat out here which is quite significantly different in its setup. Which boat is that and why, Dee?
So Charal is skippered by Jeremy Bayou, and he has a slightly different design to the others. A lot of them are wide. So Justine Metro on Teamwork, Team Snef, actually has the former Charal. So his is the next edition of that, and it's more narrow in its design. Here we can see it, and it's got the rudders set closer together. The idea being that it can be more adaptable to the conditions, so the upwind, the reaching and the downwind, which may be an advantage to him. He's done well in the Fastnet before, but he's finished 4th in the Vendée, so he really wants to get on that podium.
He's close but no cigar, am I fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
There's a lot of excitement within this class, isn't there? Because you say there's such a variety within the crews, within the boats themselves. There's so much to talk about with them, isn't there?
Absolutely, and it's just, and every boat is slightly different.
Yeah.
And we saw Be Water Positive, Team Canada, Scott Sawyer there. He's actually just taken on that boat. He's now gone into this foiling edition of the boat. The boat came 3rd in the last Vendée Globe. It came 1st in the last ocean race. So as a pedigree of boat, it's doing really well. And he's learning how to sail at that level and try and catch up with the boat. And on board with him is Pip Hare, British sailor Pip Hare.
Absolutely. I was chatting to her yesterday. Very calm, very collected about the whole thing. I mean, a wealth of experience there.
Yes, and I think it's really important that each boat tries to tap into somebody with Fastnet experience because of the technicality of the course.
And she's someone, of course, that we would associate as an individual, and taking on an event like this. I think she quite liked having a crew around her this time.
It's really nice when you talk to all of them, because they've just done a whole year of solo preparation with the Vendée Globe culminating, that to now come back in a crewed environment and have team around them, they're really enjoying that, because they quite like to chat about options and have conversations about what could be best. And they learn from each other, and that's how you get consistent improvement.
Okay, well, let's get back down to the water now with Nikki and Andy. How's it all looking down there?
Well, it was a fantastic start to see the Imocas so up close. I was a little bit surprised by how line shy they were, but mostly a good start, except, Nikki, for Initiative Kerr. Quite surprising to see that they've only just passed us here on the start line.
Yeah, we were wondering if all was okay there. It's Sam Davies is skippering with Violette, and they've got a strong crew, lots of experience on the boat, so perhaps they missed the timing or something. But it was epic to see. I mean, Paparek's start, he obviously knows the Solent. It's interesting to hear that he went to Southampton Uni because he was, at speed in the strongest tide and straight off. It was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. First win, first blood goes to Johan Rishon in the Imocas.
Okay, thanks very much, guys. Good to see that. I mean, there's a lot of excitement here, but not long to go before the Class 40. The Solent getting quite busy out there, it's fair to say. Those imposing Imocas and the Multihulls well on their way. And so it won't be long before the third start gets going, the Class 40, in just a few minutes. But Hannah, you have been looking at the Imocas. What have you picked up?
Boats are lining up on port tack. I think the tide has turned earliest on this inshore Cowes side of the start line. And we see Paprec really lined up nicely with great speed, and they're going to have a really nice lane to take out across to the middle of the Solent. The breeze is building slightly, but maybe not as quick as we were expecting, but really nice on board start for Paprec there. They'll be really, really happy with that. And of course, it's not all about the start, but it is really nice to be able to get a clear lane. You can see Johan Richomme at the helm there. He's going to have a nice, easy job holding that lane all the way across into the middle of the channel, where they'll probably be looking to tack back, stay island side, where that tide's a little bit stronger, and lead the fleet hopefully out to the Needles.
Thanks for that, Hannah. Okay, it's nearly time to get the third start going then as we bring in the boats who are in a class of their own. It's the Class 40s.
Easy to handle, short-handed, safe to take offshore and quick, and the competition's really good.
There is a big level of competition between designers, so it's really pushing us towards making better boats.
Just approaching 3.5 minutes to go before the start of the Class 40s. I mean, these are the workhorses. These are extremely competitive within this class.
Massively, and there's so little difference between their finishing times when they're racing. They really are racing in sight of each other for the whole time. And there's so many different designs within the fleet. There's, you know, from quite old boats, few generations ago, right through to one of the Italian boats, this one actually 2-on-2. It's literally been launched this spring, ready to go for this season. So it's really nice. The real key thing for the Class 40s and the ones that seem to be doing the best are these big scow bows, the bows that are lifted up, lots of volume, really good in waves, really good downwind surfing, but maybe not so effective in the light upwinds that we're going to see initially.
Yeah, and, you know, with the Class 40s, this, I would say, is probably one of the most fiercely contested offshore classes in the world, Louis. I mean, as Dee says, a lot of them are new generation, others are, you know, are decades old, but it's the new generation ones with the foils, the high-speed hulls that get a lot of, particularly new fans, very excited.
They are, and most of their racing is downhill. You know, these boats are primarily designed to cross the Atlantic Ocean downwind. They're going to be going upwind all the way to the Fastnet Rock, probably, and that's tough. That is, the boats will be slamming. I mean, Dee, tell us, what was it like upwind in the Celtic Sea in a Class 40?
Well, you know, it's a tough call. If there's any waves at all, you know about it. It's just uncomfortable, and that makes it tiring. And then it's hard to make decisions. It's hard to look at the weather and have an objective view and to get your strategy right. And when the boats are within sight of you all the time, any loss of speed or any sail change is going to cost you. So you really have to be very strategic, make the right decisions at the right time.
Yeah, and I focus on the old and new there a little bit because, you know, when we're having this conversation during the press conference too, are the older designs still as competitive?
I think, I mean, not in all conditions, but generally in a forecast like we have, which is relatively light, relatively flat water, there's no reason why they can't be competitive. And what you find is the sailors on the older boats are quite wise and have some salty sea dogs and have got the experience to make it work for them.
Yeah, and this is a class, like I say, which has exploded, Louis, in just the past few years. How has that shaped the race dynamic?
Well, you know, there were so many different classes racing here, but Class 40 is just one of them. And we're going to go right through that, but the Class 40s for sure are absolute greyhounds of the ocean. Maybe pocket rockets.
Yeah, I like that, pocket rockets. And we're just seeing them power at the minute. We'll be chatting about that during the race. But for now, let's get down to Principal Race Officer Steve Cole.
Inside that one, so 198, closest to this end of the line with 30 seconds to go.
198 still close, 187 getting close. 205 getting close.
Line is clear at the moment. Line is clear at the moment.
208.
198 is very close. One is just about to go OCS. That is 198 OCS. 198 OCS. 190. 168. 198.
187.
187. Stand by for numbers. 176, 208. 187, 198, 168.
Thanks, Steve. OK, we're underway then with the Class 40. What do we make of this?
Well, I've got to make a comment there and say 2 years ago we had 8 of them over, and this year we got all 4 of them over.
So they're getting better. That's good. It's progress.
The tide is starting to pick up. It's very difficult to judge the line, but it's a 2-hour penalty to go 10 feet closer to the Fastnet, you know, to the Fastnet rock. You know, it is not a good call to be over.
Let that be a lesson to all the other classes waiting to start. Don't push your luck, because the tide will take no mercy, and 2 hours when you're racing this close with the competitors is too much. It's
Well,
too
that's
risky.
what I wanted to ask you. When you find out you've got a 2-hour penalty like this, I mean, what are you thinking on board?
Well, now you've got to find 2 hours against the rest of the fleet somewhere, and this fleet won't let you have it. And just, it's really interesting the way this is such a competitive fleet, and they will literally be this close for most of the race, which is incredible.
As you say, such a competitive fleet, that 2 hours will make a massive difference, won't it?
Yeah, I think, Dee, talk to us about the position that they're taking on this start line. The start line is over a mile long. They could be starting a mile away from the island. That's deeper water, isn't it, out there, if you've got tide with you? Why on earth would you start
It is. So
this
the
side?
tide has turned throughout the whole of the start line, but the increased tide is island side. Also, it gives you the longest leg you've got to get to the mainland before you have to tack in the shallow water. So you're trying to get the longest gain before you, and you can already see some of the Class 40s attacking early to come back to the island to then have another long session with the stronger tide. So it's that balance of strong tide or multiple manoeuvres, and every manoeuvre costs you, and especially tacking with the fleet. While you're on starboard, you've got right of way. As soon as you're on port, you're having to give way to everybody, so it's a tough call.
Yeah, we're just seeing the Invincible. It's interesting. So many of them are French, of course. The majority now are the French boats, aren't they?
Well, on screen there, we've got Pam Lee on 178, and that's Empower Her. It's her 5th Fastnet, Irish sailor from Dublin, but it's her first one as skipper. It's her second Class 40 campaign. She's sailing with American Jay Thompson. And she's Empower Her. It's backed by DFDS, but it's all about her being a role model, a sporting hero to encourage others. And the power bit is about DFDS using greener initiatives in their energy.
It is a remarkable campaign, a really important one, I think, within the sport at the minute, aiming to champion diversity, equal opportunity, and particularly for young girls, for young women, to try to promote increased female participation and representation. Pamela is doing some remarkable work here.
She is, and she's practicing what she preaches. So her design is by a young designer called Carla, who was an intern with JB Epron, who's put the design together of the green wave. And then on board, she's got a young Irish girl, Shona, who's doing the media coverage, so on-board reporter, young into the sport. So she's really giving a pathway and an opportunity for young people, which is exactly what she wants. You know, she's had, and now she's leading the way for others.
And that is ultimately what it's all about. It is inspiring that next generation, and that's exactly what she's doing. In amongst all this as well, in that, I think I spotted the 3 bros, who of course didn't finish in 2023. They've got something to prove, haven't they?
That's right, and different conditions will definitely help them, and I think it's really going to help the fact that it's been a much more calmer approach to the start, so now they're thinking more strategy and tactics rather than survival. And as soon as you take survival off the table, then it's all about performance.
OK, well, let's head back to the water now, and Nikki and Andy have got much better view.
And that was a great view of the most competitive start we've yet seen with the Class 40s, Nikki.
Yeah, it's sort of whetting our appetite, actually. It's fun to see a start with lots of boats on it, and all up and close to the Squadron there. And more to come on that. We've got nearly 100 boats by the time we get to IRC4. But yeah, they were close, neck and neck, all the way up, huh?
And as we've just heard, one of them too close and paying that 2-hour penalty. But I've got a question for you, and maybe I'm not the best person to say this because I've been told I got the perfect face for radio. But I mean, some of these scow bows, to my looking, have got a face that only a designer of that boat could love. I mean, they might be fast, these scow bows, but to my eye, they're not a pretty boat.
No, they're not the most attractive. I mean, especially when they are the forerunners to this next class, IRC 0 and Super 0. I mean, the next start coming up is where the really, really sexy boats come in. And I think we're pretty looking forward to that one.
But having said that, when a boat is beating you consistently, as these scow bows are proving to be a breakthrough and a revolution in design compared with what I might think of as the sleeker, more traditional boat, when a boat beats you that consistently, maybe it starts to look beautiful.
I mean, I think when you're on the water, you can't see your own boat, and if you've got good speeds and it's feeling like it's working, then I think you probably fall in love with it, which is not meant for us, I think, Andy.
No, you're right. Well, that's the... Okay, well, that's it for the Class 40s. Let's see what's coming up next. It's looking really busy out here.
Yeah, it is starting to get very busy down there. I didn't think we'd be talking about sexy boats at this point in the day. Very unfair talking about those sky boys. But still a lot to come here. Oh, there we go. The Challenge Cup, of course, is about to come in the next few minutes as well. As the big kids, though, on the block in the IRC category step up. It is coming up to IRC 0 and Super 0.
It's what makes the Fastnet race an amazing event. High-tech boats, low-tech boats coming together to race together.
A big gun for the big guns, it's fair to say. This is sort of where Grand Prix meets offshore, isn't it?
It certainly is, and you know, we're about to see the heavyweight bout. These boats, one of them is going to take line honours in this race for Multihull.
Ooh, that's a big claim.
That was a punch back from Dee. I'll tell you what, I'll have a drink with you on that. One of these boats is going to be the first Multihull into Cherbourg.
Oh, Louis gone early.
And I'm going to go big shout out for Pete Cumming, who is standing right here. But he's actually racing on Argo, which is a multi-hull, so he's already gone. I forgot to tell that. Sorry, Pete.
And your money's on this one as well, isn't it? Your money's on Verena, isn't it?
No, that's for IRC, D. That's for IRC.
Now you're changing your tune. Now I'm calling you out.
We can hear the recording. Monohull line honours, I'm going to go for Leopard.
Oh.
I'm going to go Leopard.
I'm liking this. I'm liking this.
No, I'll go Blackjack then.
Just go confidence. But look, this fleet, we're talking about big budgets here, big ambitions.
Huge crew numbers as well.
Yeah.
Let's not underestimate it. On board, I mean, it's like 12 to 15 people to sail these boats. And some of them have even looked at the crew numbers and the forecast to see whether they can afford to drop the weight of the crew and take less people, just because it's that competitive. Because it's the glory class, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And what's it like on board with such a big crew? You know, sort of 15 plus people, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes a lot of coordination, but it's like managing an orchestra, because nobody can do their one job individually unless everybody else does theirs. So it's about being a conductor of a beautiful orchestra, and when you make sweet music, it's beautiful.
Who's making sweet music amongst this class then?
Well, you've got to mention Scallywag as well, come on.
Yeah, well, they're going for it. They've had a few issues on some of their offshores recently with a bit of damage, but, you know, they've got some big hitters on board. Luke Parkinson, fresh from SailGP Glory, and Rob Greenhound on there.
Indeed, yeah, the Rob Greenhound. Luke, I heard, has got a nickname offshore when he was in the around the world race. What was it, Dee?
I can possibly say what happens offshore stays offshore.
I believe it was Labrador, because you wouldn't leave your free stride near him.
Another one to talk about is Whisper, of course, which Whisper, I think very kindly to say, the most travelled boat to compete in the Fastnet. Most travelled, meaning it's... Oh, there we go, 1 minute to go. In these final few seconds then, as you say, this is all in the skipper then, it's like a conductor trying to bring everything together.
And over to Dee on Wind Whisper, the Volvo Ocean 65. 50,000 miles you've done in these boats? Not far off that.
A fair couple of laps of the planet.
Okay, well, let's get back down there then with Steve on the starting line.
But with 30 seconds to go, we'll need to bear away. Challenge Ocean, closest one to the line. Challenge Ocean coming up now, is just about to go OCS, and is OCS now, 43534. USA 7007, Pi Wacket, 7007. 10 seconds. The one outside, which is the 7 quadruple 0. 7 quadruple 0 is the closest one to the line. Right, so only one boat. 4-3, 5-3, 4.
The IRC 0, Super 0, IRC 0 underway. What do we make of that?
I think Choose's start was absolutely brilliant then. He came in on starboard, forced everybody else to go behind him, got clear water and then tacked, and then now has a really nice long run through to the island in maximum tide. So that was my start of the day, I think, so far.
I mean, you get a sense that it's such a different approach from, you know, the previous classes at the Class 40. At this point, the work has been done.
It has, Holly, but Choose, what a year they've been having. They have won the Rourke Transatlantic race in January overall. They won the Rourke Caribbean 600 overall. They won the East to West Transatlantic race overall. They've already done the hat trick, but this is the big one. This is what they were all trying to get to. And the competition here is absolutely fierce.
Okay, let's talk about Whisper then. What's happening right now?
Well, Whisper, as you said earlier on, that's come all the way from Australia to compete. And there is actually a team trophy in the Rolex Fastnet race, and 2 other Australian boats are in the Admiral's Cup, along with Whisper, are going for that team trophy, and they're very much part of that team for the trophy during the Rolex Fastnet, because there's lots of trophies that people go for, you know, right down to the J109 trophy. There's lots of trophies, not just the big one.
Absolutely, yeah. The Australians have their own cup to compete for. And I was speaking to Griffith from Whisper yesterday, and there was a vicious rumour going around that the boat had sailed here all the way from Sydney. That was not the case, of course.
But there is one boat that has, but they're later on.
Okay, something to look forward to then. Let's go back down to Nikki and Andy there. How's it looking?
Looking busier and busier. We're seeing some starboard tackers. There was a bit of jousting on the start line between port and starboard tackers, some near collisions, and the boats attacking within a few feet of our commentary position, Nikki.
Yes, you said near collisions. I thought you meant with us for a second.
Well, it pretty much was.
Yeah, I mean, as Dee said, Choose's start was absolutely stunning. Wasn't sure if they actually had to duck a port tacker at one point, but amazing to do that and clean over the line. It was fantastic.
Louet's pick for line honours. Leopard, bit of a slow plodding start for Leopard.
Yeah, I mean, a bit harsh to say slow plodding. But yeah, they were a little bit late, but as we've said time and time again, you know, at least they weren't over early. And impressive, only one boat over early when they have the speeds they have. That is incredible.
But the boat that was over early was over really early, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Challenge Ocean. Yeah. So quite a big miss by them. I mean, it wasn't even by a few inches or a few feet. They were well over.
Yeah, I mean, quite a few boats have been early on this side, and I think that they're probably just underestimating the run of the tide, which is really strong on this headland. Yeah, let's have a look at that start. Yeah, there you go. There they go over early there.
Breaking the blue line, and Pyewacket also very close, and Pyewacket having to do a last-minute bear away behind Schuss, which was one of the big starboard tackers that really could have put a cat among the pigeons. So it's just getting busier and busier down here, and I think it's going to get even hotter for the next one.
Yeah.
Literally, I think, is the case. Nicky and Andy, thank you. Oh, Louet, the commentator's curse. What have you done to Leopard?
Well, I'm going to have a chat with Andy Rice, I tell you. If Leopard had the first boat into Cherbourg, he's definitely going to owe me a beer.
OK, our next start is just about 5 minutes away, and it is the one that adds a whole new dimension to this Fastnet race. It's the Admiral's Cup, and all week the teams have been competing in both off and onshore races to rack up some crucial points. But the Fastnet is the one that could be key. Let's hear from Rourke's Admiral Janet Grosvenor with the story of the Admiral's Cup 2025 so far.
The Admiral's Cup is back after a 2-decade break. 15 teams of 2 boats are taking part. Exceptional crews of legendary status have been picked to sail for their country. To win the Cup, the teams must accumulate the lowest amount of points in the series of races taking place. If you come first in a race, you get 1 point, second, 2, third, 3, and so on. The action kicked off on Saturday with the traditional Channel offshore race, and the stakes were high, with double the number of points on offer. It was a light breeze to start this 160 nautical mile course, and the conditions in the Channel showed no mercy to the fleet. Two-time Fastnet winner Ran was first to finish, with New Zealand's Callisto taking the honours in Class 2.
It was 18 hours, so we thought about it more like a very long coastal, and it was also interesting to see the difference between different boats as well, how they perform in different conditions.
To take first in any one of the races is a tremendous honor, and everybody left everything out there. It was an incredible night.
But the Italian and Hong Kong's team's strong performances saw them leading the pack, with an already sizable gap between the top and the bottom of the table. A packed schedule of inshore races awaited the teams, and there was plenty of drama in the second race, with Red Bandit's rig collapsing. As for the rest of the fleet, Wednesday's action was brought to a halt by a lack of wind. But the one race that did take place saw the teams display a tactical masterclass in light air sailing. The inshore series concluded on Thursday with an intense day of 3 races that saw different winners in every race and every class. And now the final and toughest challenge awaits, the Rolex Fastnet race. Who will be lifting the Admiral's Cup?
That's Janet Grosvenor there. Thanks for that. And you can see here on the leaderboard as it stands for the Admiral's Cup, the teams were able to discard their points for one of the inshore races, but not for the Fastnet, which is scored triple. It is a huge incentive to push harder than ever. Louis, it's been an incredible week of sailing. What's the state of play?
Well, for starters, the buzz in Cowes has been unbelievable. I've been coming here since I was 16 years of age, and I have never witnessed those sort of boats and those sort of sailors all in one place. And they were all grinning like Cheshire cats because it was just incredibly complex, great fun. And the racing was absolutely electric.
Yeah.
So just a great event.
It's such a huge event in that it feels a little bit like national pride is at stake, which adds just another layer to you're nodding along.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to be a competitive sailor on the water and want to do well, but when you represent a country, it's like that added layer, I think, and you can really feel that on the dock. Even though not everybody's from the same nationality on board, it's that team bond and they're doing it together.
And you are a team, so there's another boat in your team. If you do well, you're doing one for the team. If you have a bad race, you're not just feeling bad for yourselves, but also you've let your team down.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's that pressure of knowing that your own individual performance can let everyone else down. And what does it mean within the sport, to have the return of a competition like this?
To be honest, Holly, we don't know yet. This hasn't happened for over 22 years, I think it is, since it's happened. So we just don't know. We don't know what we've created here. We don't know what it's going to become. But it's very popular. We've got 15 teams from literally 6 continents that have come here to do this. So
just less than a minute and a half away to go before the start of that. And you say you don't know, but I imagine that we will see this format continue to grow after this.
Well, definitely. The buzz on the dock is definitely this is something that needs to continue, and we're seeing people get excited about talking of bringing back events that were lost due to the Admiral's Cup. Yes, so we're talking the Sardinia Cup, the Southern Cross Cup, the Southern Cross Challenge, so they're really getting excited by it.
Okay, well, let's get down there then and back to Steve.
So, back to black on port, MON 52, closest boat to the line with EST 773 also.
AUS 1.
6:05.64 just tacked onto port. 25 seconds to go. 25 seconds to go. 6:05.64. Final. 6:05.64. Big bear away now. 10 seconds to go. Line will be clear. All clear, line clear.
All clear, all clear. That's exactly what you'd expect, wouldn't it?
Well, there was just a blanket start there. Django looked like they got it. That's the Wally Rocket 51, but you couldn't call that. But coming like an absolute train, you've got Jolt 3. He's just come through the pack. Django's back at him again. This line is over a mile long, and they are all bunched up in a peloton outside the Squadron D.
And just watching, oh my God,
Your jaw is on the floor right now.
I know, watching that start. So yes, Django got it, but Jolt was over the top of them. But Beau Jess was in the inside. They then tacked onto port. They had nowhere to go, and they thread the needle through the fleet. I am not surprised by the first 5 boats across the line. Raan was up there as well. But these boats have been sailing every single day. And so I think they're just really used to doing these starts together all the time.
And over our head right now to mark this occasion, those are, of course, the RAF's red arrows. And they are here marking the centenary of the Fastnet race. Look at that. What a spectacle that is.
That's really cool. And actually, as that was happening underneath them, Beau Jess actually did a penalty turn. So something happened in the middle of them trying to thread the needle through everybody. So we'll try and find out what happened.
Yeah. Okay. Dee, thanks very much. Well, let's try and find out what's going on there and head down to Nikki and Andy. Nikki, what can you tell us?
Yeah, the competitiveness of that fleet took it up a level. You can tell these guys have been training and racing this last week. It was just that you could almost feel the competitiveness and the ego in the room. Couldn't you? Do you know what I mean, Andy?
Well, they've been fighting for feet and inches all week on the inshore racing, and that has fed over into the start of this 700-miler, the Rolex Fastnet race. They can't get that out of them. You know, they're fighting tooth and nail for every inch that they can get. And final, paid up. Okay, back to you.
Okay, yeah, we had a little bit of audio there. I think given the fact that we had the red arrows overhead and that fleet taking off, but that was an absolutely professional start there within the Admiral's Cup. It really was quite a spectacle. And again, this is a competition. It's made a lot of changes. One person on each team must be female, one under 27. And of course, again, it's all about diversifying and modernising this event. So a lot of excitement in the first few starts. And Hannah's been picking out some of the big moments so far, Hannah. Oh, not quite yet. We haven't got Hannah just yet. So, Dee, if you just tell me, the ones to watch on this, as we say, they're all at such a level. It is incredible to watch. You can see the difference.
Definitely. The level of how close to the line they were, how close to each other they are, is a real indication of the quality of sailor we've got on the water in this fleet. And it's super competitive. And we mustn't forget that the Admiral's Cup is the big boat and the little boat together. So the big boats are all roughly similar, but in the Admiral's Cup Class 2 fleet, there's a wider range of boats, so they're super competitive and they're going to have advantages and disadvantages in the different conditions. I think it's a real hard one to call, isn't it? There's a lot of reputation, but the points are so close, given that this is a triple coefficient.
Well, if I know Louis, he's going to call it.
All right, so how's it stand at the moment? The teams, quite easily, it's Jess, Jolt, Django. So you've got Beau Jess, Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. That's the winning team at the moment. Second, you've got the Yacht Club de Monaco team, which are the two Jolts, Jolt 3 and Jolt 6. And then you've got the Djangos, which are the Wally Rocket 51 and the JPK 1180. And they're with the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda. However, if you look at AC1, where they are at the moment, the lead boat is Django by 1 point, okay? The other two are tied. So there's 1 point separating the top three in the big boat class. In the smaller boat class, 82, there isn't a point separating the top two. They are both on the same points.
Wow.
It's that close.
It is so close, but that just makes it so much more dramatic. It makes it so much more exciting.
And tactically, it's about who wins, but actually if they get clever and position certain boats between certain teams, then it changes the whole thing. And I think New Zealand want to come in, the New Zealand Yacht Club want to come in and just rewrite all the rules in this and change it all. And Caro does have a reputation in this race.
Well, and we saw some boats do penalty turns. Now, if in doubt, do the penalty turns, because you could get disqualified from this race. You score triple points and you can't discard them.
Yeah, so Caro for this, obviously the winner of the 2023 Fastnet race, chatting to Adrian yesterday too, feeling so confident, so cool, and that's, you know, that says a lot, doesn't it? Because that's the sort of attitude that you need to have in a race like this.
Yeah, and he's got the experience to have that confidence as well.
Okay, well let's look at some of the big moments within this race so far. Hannah, what have you seen?
Yeah, well, that last start that we've just seen was probably providing the most action that we've had so far, wasn't it? The pin end of the line down here at the Squadron end was really hotly contested. We could see Beaujest tacking onto port there and then being the giveaway boat to all of these starboard boats that were really approaching so thick and fast from the right-hand side of them. We could see them taking a duck behind another couple of boats, and it's really heart and mouth sailing. You can see Jolt coming off the line really nicely there just above Django, but they're heading into shallow water, so they do have to give room to tack away. So they lead that tack away onto port, away from the start line a little bit. You can see how light the wind has stayed just at the moment. It should be picking up, but it's just being a little slower maybe than we were expecting. They've now got a really nice line on port away from the start line, but they are the giveaway boat. And with such a thick blanket of boats coming at them on starboard, they've got to be really sure they're sailing the boat nicely to make sure they make the cross all the way into the deeper water. The crew work on board these boats is so important. They have had quite a nice warm-up. They've been racing for the last week or so. They started with the Channel race and then the Inshore series. So all of these teams really, really perfectly drilled with all of their maneuvers, but probably a little bit more of a hectic start than they would have wanted. You can see Baraka GP there, when they tack onto port, all of that crew hiking nicely, which means they've got a really nice bit of pressure. I think probably just at the Squadron end of the line there, it's a little bit lighter, so heading into the middle of the channel where there's a little bit more wind is going to be beneficial.
IRC1 is coming up very, very shortly. But first, we're going to take a quick pause before the action reconvenes, and I'm joined by two very special guests in the form of James Boyd, yachting journalist and race reporter for the Rolex Fastnet race, and international sailor Lisa McDonald. Welcome to both of you. Having a good day so far?
It's a brilliant day. It is such an honour to be here for the centenary Rolex Fastnet race.
And James, for you, obviously, I want to take it back a little bit. All the way back, in fact, to 1925, as we are marking this special occasion today, when there were just 7 boats on that starting line. Here we are today. I mean, how much of an impact has the Fastnet race had on offshore sailing?
Well, it's quite extraordinary. 100 years ago, obviously there was no Royal Ocean Racing Club, and the Fastnet race was really the event which caused the formation of the club. 100 years ago was very different. It started from Ryde, which is a bit further east from here, and they actually went eastward out of the Solent and around the bottom of the Isle of Wight before they went up to the Fastnet Rock, and obviously ended in Plymouth back then. So 7 boats. There were no real race boats back then. Half the fleet were cruising boats, and the other half were what they called pilot cutters, which were the sort of fastest commercial sailing yachts of the day. So a very different kind of genre of yacht.
Absolutely, it's had quite the evolution. And Lisa, you've seen that. You've done this race, of course, and today must feel extremely special as we stand here on the centenary.
It is such an honour. I've done this race a number of times in a variety of conditions. So it's lovely to see the variety of boats, the number of boats, the biggest number, I think, on history that we've got on the start lines today. And the quality of the competition is second to none. I was on the docks this morning and the vibe is fantastic to celebrate.
You're absolutely right. There is such an atmosphere today. You can feel it in the air, and it is, of course, you know, the incredible conditions too. And I know, James, that you are writing a book on the 100 years of the Royal Ocean Club. Many more chapters to get through, I imagine, but there must be so many incredible special moments that you have to include, that somehow try to whittle it down into this book.
Well, the book is, there was a book published in 2000 for the 75th anniversary, so the book I'm writing is really focusing on the last 25 years, but there have been definitely some sort of key moments, and really the Fastnet race has almost been like the sort of the gauge. So we saw entry numbers at the beginning of the 60s go from 100, and by the end of the 70s it was up to 300, and now on the start line we're going to probably see about 450. So that really gives some good indication of the incremental growth. But the really extraordinary thing about the sport of offshore sailing, which you can see in this race, is just the diversity of it. You saw the first start today where the 100-foot trimarans were going, and at the last start we'll see the IRC4 boats, which are some of the smallest boats with sort of mums and dads family kind of campaigns, and you get the whole sort of plethora of competing this year.
We were stood there, so 10 minutes, I think, until the next race, to the IRC1 starts. And today has such a different feel to it, Lisa, compared to the last two editions. Conditions are good. We're sort of hoping for a fast race, but right now, what do you think the fleet's going to have to contend with, as they take on this near 700-mile course? There's a lot to think about.
There's a lot to think about, certainly. The most important thing is for everyone to get out of the Solent this afternoon. They've got the tide taking them down the western Solent. They've got light breeze, tricky conditions, and lots of boats on the water and lots of spectators. So that's the first tactical bit, is just to get out through the castle.
Yeah, because it's these moments are so critical. The planning and preparation has been done to a certain extent, but right now it's all about the attitude, and what can happen in the next few minutes is so important. And I think, James, it's fair to say we have seen every type of condition on the starting line over the last 100 years. So I reckon potentially could this one make a chapter of your book?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Particularly because we've had the Admiral's Cup come back, and that's really one of the things which has boosted the flavour of this particular event. We've got 15 teams from all over the world, and that's really brought a whole new sort of pro element back to the competition. So that's been a very special thing this year. But as you say, 2 years ago we were sitting here with our raincoats on and it was blowing a full gale, and this year it's looking quite clement. So I think they're going to have a much nicer time this year.
Yeah, we were trying to hide from the elements this time 2 years ago, behind umbrellas and fleeces and all that sort of thing. And look, let's not focus too much about the history then. Let's look to the future, Lisa, because it is growing from strength to strength. A lot of the focus today talking about diversity and bringing more women into the sport, that sort of thing. Where do you see the sport going then in the next 2 years as we look ahead to 2027?
As we look ahead, I think the sport's just going to keep growing and getting stronger. I've actually seen this time on the docks not just a new revitalised group of young women coming through, but also young men. The next generation is really starting to come through the ranks, and it's so fresh to see. We've got a lot of the old guard still there, showing them the tricks, what to do, how to get on board. And I think the young guys are coming through, and the young girls, so it's really refreshing to see for me.
Well, it's been lovely to chat to you, Lisa. James, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of the day and rest of the race, of course, as well. But for now, let's get back to the action then. We'll head back down to the water. And Nikki and Andy, we've talked an awful lot about the conditions, but I imagine it's been very busy down there.
It's very busy. The boat is rocking around quite a bit. There's a lot of traffic here on the water. And Nikki, you said you just a couple of minutes ago you're glad you weren't driving that red funnel ferry across from Southampton.
Yeah, I'm sure you're seeing on the footage, but shipping doesn't stop for the race, and you can't even imagine being at the helm of a ferry and driving through 100 boats heading up to the start line. What's really nice to see about this fleet that's just starting to get ready is you start to see real diversity now in the fleet. Some old boats built in the 70s. We were just checking out Storm Vogel, which is an amazing boat, and amazing to think that one line honours, and we were just betting that,
1961.
Yeah, and now we're talking about who's going to win it this year, and just looking at how the design has changed. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
The amazing thing is, under the IRC rating system as well, Storm Vogel, even though it's more than 60 years old, is still very competitive, and I think has finished top 20 overall in IRC in the last two editions. They were very windy editions, and I suspect what they call the original Maxi Storm Vogel would prefer stronger conditions, less clement conditions, as James Boyd was saying. So maybe it won't do so well on IRC this year, but what I love about this rating system is that in the right conditions, almost any boat that's sailed well can be competitive.
Yeah, and you can see them all sort of jostling around. They've got their head sails up. They're probably starting to think about their start strategy. And I mean, this start now begins just all about getting a clean air, some space on the line. I think that's probably what they're looking for.
Which is going to be very challenging because it is super busy out there right now. We think we've seen traffic already in the previous start. How's it going to look for this one? Complicated.
Complicated is a good word. That covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it? So IRC1, and this is a class that's produced some real Fastnet heroes over the years.
That's right, and I think we get excited by the flash, exciting, fast stuff that goes off at the beginning, but actually this is where the grassroots, IRC fleet is super competitive. They do a lot of racing. They do a lot of Rourke races in the build-up to the Fastnet race. And this is where those, really good sailors come from. And it's amazing. This Class 1 start, IRC1, will have 74 entries on this start line. I mean, 74 boats trying to all jockey for position on a line, yes, it's long, is difficult. It's very tricky.
Yeah, let's focus on long career here. What do we know about this boat? This is their 18th edition.
Yeah, Jerry's 18th Rolex Fastnet race. Jerry Trentaso won the race overall, has won the class, I do not know how many times. He says this is going to be his last.
Until the next one.
Until the next one. And really cool thing about Jerry Trentaso is the team that he has on board. All of the crew have done either the Figaro or the Tour Voile. And they are really close-knit friends. So once asked him what his watch system is, he said, we don't have one. We just, somebody sails, somebody sleeps, somebody eat. And they have an amazing bond on board that boat.
Yeah, you can see that, and that is the 4-minute warning for the IRC1. But look, it's such a competitive one, and it is exciting because it is that mix of amateurs, and they are hungry for it. This is something that means so much. They've been training for months for this, and it all comes down to the next few days.
And it's a long few days for them as well. This is going to be probably for most of the people in this class and class 2, 3 and 4, it's the longest time at sea they're ever going to spend. And for some of them, we're talking 5-6 days for the smaller boats.
How do you manage that then when you've got a team, who isn't used to this sort of thing, and they're dealing with this sort of fatigue, when performance margins are so tight and they're not professional?
Well, and that's part of the warm-up process that Rourke put in place by the qualifying races that they do. So each one is a little bit longer. So they've practiced as a team. They've practiced living on board a boat. They found out what food they like and what they don't like. And then they just add a few more days on. But the adrenaline from the start of a Fastnet, that gets them through the first 24 hours. And then it's all the south coast and landmarks. And then, of course, you get the long slog across the Irish Sea, but you get the Fastnet Rock. And everybody has a mixed emotion. Do we do it in the daytime so we can take a nice photo, or do you do it at night so you can see the loom in the dark? It's just as exciting no matter what time of day you're there.
Yeah, and we often, Louis, see some of the most aggressive tactical racing in IRC1. Are there any standout programs that you've got your eye on here?
Well, you
Here's
can't.
Zero that we're looking at.
Yeah, that's an extremely well campaigned boat, Mark Mills design, the 39. It has an Irish sail number, but it's now owned by, I believe, I better be careful what I say here, I think it's now owned by a Brit. But that's a very famous boat. It's won the IRC Nationals a few times. Not that proven offshore, actually, to be fair, but nothing wrong with it, and it has to go through all the safety regulations to get through. But yeah, no, it's an incredibly impressive fleet, and to win IRC1, you've really got to do the business.
Yeah,
we're on screen right now. We've got Dawn Treader. Now, this is a JPK 1180, and Ed and the team have done the Rourke Transatlantic race. They've done the Caribbean 600. So there are boats exactly like this doing the Admiral's Cup, but this boat isn't doing the Admiral's Cup. Yeah. And I tell you what, there's 3 Admiral's Cup JPK 1180s, and they would love it if they beat them.
Yeah, it is exciting. And Dawn Treader, they had to retire back in 2021.
Lost the rig.
Yeah. So, but they have had some good performances since then, so looking promising.
Yeah, and on screen right now, Holly, you've got one of the Clipper boats. We've got 5 in this race. These are the 68s, but I know somebody knows an awful lot about the Clipper fleet. That's Dee Kafari standing right next to me.
Okay, it's 1 minute to go. Very briefly then, Dee.
Well, the special thing about the Clipper fleet and the tall ships fleet that are out there that I probably know better, having sailed around the world a few times on them, is that they're people paying for the experience. They're people from all walks of life that aren't professional sailors that commit time, money and effort to go and have the experience of a lifetime.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back down there with Principal Race Officer Steve Cole. Steve.
GER 5549 is the closest boat at the moment, 30 seconds. So stand by for numbers, here we go. And 8055 Lima is over. It will be SGER 554 something and SWE ending in 49 and USA 2650 and SA 3040 and 44103
And France 18. France 18.
Right, so we have 43631, Germany 5549, FRA 46720, 6712 Romeo, 2650 USA, NED 4103.
8055 to both as well.
There, we have quite a few over.
Just a few.
Just
They all
one or
got a bit
two.
excited, and that's underestimating the push of the tide. And we can see that on some of them. You know, they're really crabbing sideways. They thought they had a bit of a safety margin, but it wasn't enough.
How does that happen, particularly when we have so many like that? What goes wrong?
Well, I think it's just that little bit of enthusiasm and adrenaline at the race start. They're in the final countdown. They think they've got good space, but actually as they sheet on and speed up, they underestimate that acceleration with the tide, and then there's no way back. You know, you're fighting a really strong tide, they're never going to get back, and then the rest of the fleet's behind them, they've got nowhere to go. So they just have to go and take the penalty. And it's a shame, and it's interesting, one of the boats over there, Moana, has just done the transatlantic from Newport to Cowes, and they had a great race. It's a young, really young crew, and they'll be really frustrated at that. And it's one of those things of, it's not worth it. We discussed it. 2 hours is a massive penalty at the end of such a close fleet.
Yeah, and that comes down to experience, I suppose.
Yeah, but they do say that one race start in 8, you should be over, otherwise you're not trying hard enough.
I like that. I'm trying to keep my eye out here for Bedouin, because Bedouin, I was chatting to Linda, who's skipper there, and alongside her 4 children.
Well, I'll tell you who we have got on screen right now, and that is long career, and that's Antoine Carpentier hanging off the rail. In the Admiral's Cup fleet, 10 minutes ahead of them, there's another Kerr 43, and they'll be looking at how they're sailing, and they'd love to beat Abracadabra, which has got Stir Fry, Andy Beadsworth on board, very good crew. But who we got there now? There we go, there's Long Courier. And Jerry was over on a year when they had to come back, and then he won the race. 2015, I think it was, Dee. But
goes to show that all is not lost. You should never give up. It goes right through to the end. Anything can happen.
Okay, well, let's just step away from the action here on the start line for a moment, because Hannah, you've been watching the IRC1 start very carefully. What have you spotted going over the line there?
Yeah, so really, really busy fleet in IRC1. We can see this still, Squadron end of the line is still really, really favoured. Lots of boats underestimating the amount of tide that's pushing them over the line here. So they're sort of winding up in their last approach to the start, and then they're having to come back down again and avoid all of the other boats that are trying to fit in at this end. Of course, if you're on port, you're the giveaway boat, so you really want to be on starboard here. As we can see, Dawn Treader had a nice start there. There were a number of boats over in this start though, so a number of them will be carrying that time penalty. And as they get off the shoreline at the Squadron end of the line, they're having to tack over. There's very shallow water just there. Then they become the giveaway boats as they tack over onto port. If you can find a lane out, then you're okay, but it's a big risk, especially to carry at this early part of the race. So they'll always be looking underneath the boom to see if there's any starboard boats coming. You can see just in the middle of the screen here, we've got a couple of starboard boats. We've got the grey hull boat in the middle there, just trying to make it all the way across, but they do have to give way to the boats on starboard. It's an amazing helicopter view, being able to see some of those rules incidents as the boats come quite close there. And a couple of boats then having to go back onto starboard to try and avoid some of the boats that are coming from their right-hand side. But really high risk to start at this end of the line, to be honest, at this part of the race, and you just want to be breaking free, find some clear air, make your way to the middle of the Solent where that tide is building and building all the way, taking you to the Needles. The crew work is really important for this part of the race because you've got to execute your maneuvers really, really nicely. You can see the crew on board the Tall Ships Youth Trust here having a great time. as they exit the Solent, but not easy to get off this start line, and we're seeing it really, really compact down at this Squadron end of the line.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Yeah, interestingly there, a lot of high risk seems to be within this one. Not easy getting off that start line, Hannah says, and I think we are seeing the result of that.
And now, because we've got the tide is more uniform across the Solent, they're still going for the advantage of the stronger tide on the island side. But you're not going to lose out if you go for the middle of the line and give yourself a bit more space. But that's the hard thing. With 74 entries on IRC1, there wasn't any space on that start line.
No, well,
so,
you could see that.
Yeah, so I think as we get to slightly smaller classes, it might become a little bit easier. And then there's much less differentiation of the strength of tide across the line as well as we go through the rest of the classes. Great shot there of Dawn Treader, Ed Bell's team. That's a very young team, and they've done a lot of sailing, and I've got a feeling they might do quite well in IRC. What do you think, Dee? I hope they do. And what's really nice now, with the tracking that we've got available on the Fastnet race to track the boats and AIS, they can actually see what their counterparts are doing further up, so they get an indication of what's going on. So they're going to be looking at the same design boat in the Admiral's Cup class just to see what their tactics are and what conditions they're getting, and see if they can try and get an advantage.
It's such a spectacle when we see it there, and it's much harder. I'm finding it much more difficult to try to identify some of the boats here, of course, as we move through the classes as well. And for them, I mean, it must be hard at this level not to be overwhelmed by the occasion. It's really easy to get distracted, especially when they're out there and they're trying to work out where the start line is, and then they see a famous face or a famous boat and they're like, oh, look at that. Because these people, as we said, are Corinthians sailing alongside racing pedigree that they've read about and seen on TV, and it's so cool. Just seeing Foggy Dew there and the big waves coming off them, literally.
Noel Rashid, he is an absolute diamond, that man.
Yeah.
That's a JPK 1030, which you often see sailed double-handed, but he sails with he likes to sail with lots of people.
But you know what's great about that? They're enjoying themselves. You can see that. You know, it's the first we've seen of that today, relaxing that little bit more. Let's head back down to the water then and over to Nikki and Andy. Hello, guys.
Yeah, well, Nikki, another really hectic start at our end of the line, at the island end of the line.
Yeah, it's sort of, I was just saying to Andy, you know, it's easy to say, oh, well, they're just pushing and it's all about ego, which of course it is to try and get an early start. But there's so many boats. I bet a lot of them are just getting a bit stuck too. That, you know, there's only one way and it's forward, and so they're over the line early and they can't find a gap to turn.
No, sometimes you book your spot too early. But I was really impressed with Hound, the boat that's come over from USA. Recently did the transatlantic race. For a big boat in a big crowd, I thought it did really well to come off the line the way they did.
Yeah, because they're heavy, and you know, getting that boat to turn in comparison to something like Dawn Treader is a whole different story. They need a lot more space. So you know, they did a great job. I actually raced with them back last year in the Caribbean 600, and they were raced excellently. Yeah, it was a close start, and the visual on the boats is not brilliant. I mean, when they're packed in, they cannot see a lot. They've definitely got to have a crew member on the low side, that's for sure. They're squeezed in.
Well, it's going to be another hectic start coming up. We got some real hot players. They're not going to give an inch on this start line for IRC2.
Thanks, guys. Look, we're going to try and head down to Hurst Castle here, take some live shots from there. And what is interesting, look at that. Nobody's about. So this is a surprise, yeah, or is it, Dee?
Well, I think what we expected was a little bit more breeze to fill in by this time, and it hasn't come yet. You know, it's still quite light out here, and because it's upwind and because there's so many boats, they're having to do a lot more manoeuvres, a lot more tacks, which is costing them some time on the race course. And as soon as you're in someone's bad air, so if you're positioned to leeward and behind a boat, you've got to clear your air, so you're probably forced to do more manoeuvres than you want to at the time.
Yeah, because we're in a great position there. Usually we'd see a bit of action there at Linstone Chine Holiday Park, but absolutely nothing. What is kind of going through your mind, you know, when you reach that landmark? It's kind of that first moment, isn't it, where you think, right, okay, let's do this.
So you've cracked the Solent by then, you've made it out, and you get to Hurst Castle, and normally that's a big transition. There's an acceleration up the Needles Channel, you've probably got to do a sail change. Here we're going to have the wind bending, so there's still going to be tight upwind, and they're going to have to tack. So then you're looking at the shingles bank on one side of the Needles, trying to get a tidal advantage, plus the volume of traffic that you're crossing with. So it's still not over there. You're nearly out, but not quite. You've still got to make the Needles.
Okay, well, look, still plenty more to come. In fact, we have got 3 more starts this afternoon. Let's take a look at that. At 12:40, the IRC2, just 10 minutes away now. And then at 1 o'clock, closely following, the IRC3. And then at 1:20, the IRC4, the smallest of boats, arguably with the biggest of hearts. Well, that means 10 minutes to go then until IRC2. Look at those clouds above, a little bit overcast now in those conditions. And whenever the boats reach the finish line in Cherbourg on Cotentin, I tell you what, there will be a real party awaiting them. The team in France sent us this update from just a few moments ago.
Hi everybody, so we are live from the village in Cherbourg en Cotentin, where all the excitement is happening with over 100 volunteers ready to welcome all the visitors here in France. There are 3 main areas to explore here. You have the food, the concert, the live music zone there. After you have a specific zone for the children, activities, animation. And to finish, we have an exhibition areas with all the local brands and craftsmen who showcase their products. So we can't wait to see all the boats crossing the finish line here in Cherbourg en Cotentin. And we are all set and ready for the start of the Rolex Fastnet race. I will now pass it over to Marie-Soline, our project director.
Thank you, Alizé. So yes, we are very close to the start. We wish to all the competitors a great race, and we look forward to seeing them in Cherbourg.
A little drop of sunshine at the right time when things look great. A little drop of sunshine is all I need every day. I'm in the sunshine and I feel fine 'cause the rain can't stop the sunshine. Whoa, whoa. Sunshine. Whoa, whoa. Some days I feel so uninspired, and yet you find a way to make me smile. I know I am loved no matter what I do. I can't say enough about my love for you. You are to me a little drop of sunshine at the right time when things look great. A little drop of sunshine is all I need every day. I'm in the sunshine and I feel fine 'cause the rain can't stop the sunshine. Whoa, whoa. Sunshine. Whoa, whoa. Your light shines in my heart, a ray of hope to break my dark. Pour out your love on me. Open up my eyes.
Oh, sorry, we were just having our own little party here. They say the party is in Cherbourg on Cotentin. It's right here at Cowes here today. Here, Dee, tell me about that though, because the atmosphere over there, it's that sense of, I suppose, relief in many ways, but it is a real party, isn't it?
Absolutely, because they've worked so hard to do the race. By the time you get in, you're finished, you know, you're broken. But everybody's celebrating your achievement, and then you just get a whole new lease of life, of a real buzz of like, I've achieved something really special now. and you want to celebrate, and you celebrate with everybody, and all the crews welcome each other in, share stories, and there is a real buzz. And you know, the audience, the public in Cherbourg really have enjoyed having the race there.
Makes it all worthwhile. Well, hopefully some of these boats we're looking at now in the IRC2 category will get to enjoy a little bit of that sunshine. And tell me about the IRC2 then. As I said earlier on, I mean, it's an unpredictable fleet, isn't it?
It is, but we're starting to see more of the double-handed boats come into this fleet as well now. So between IRC 2, 3 and 4, we see more and more double-handed entries. So it really is a whole mix-up, and the range of boats is much wider now as well.
Yeah, Louis, it's that kind of mix of old and new again, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, and there can't be more difference than, say, Lanelle 3, and I'm pretty sure Scarlet Oyster is in IRC2. Now, the Scarlet Oyster has won class at this race multiple times, and she's, I think, about 30, 40 years old, the boat.
Wow.
Sailed by Ross Appleby. He has a regular crew, and they are actually charter guests, but they just keep coming back and back. And we've also got Lanelle 3, which was the sort of prototype for these new style of double-handed boat, which we're starting to see get echoed through the Pogo fleet, through the prototype. So yeah, a massive range of boats in IRC2.
A massive range of ages as well of the actual crew too, because you get a sense that this is attracting a lot of the younger sailors now. It's gravitating towards these boats. Is IRC2 almost becoming a kind of breeding ground for new talent in offshore sailing?
IRC 4, 3 and 2 for sure, because it's accessible. They can sail with other people with more experience, so they gain confidence, and then they can take on a boat that's more their size, that they feel comfortable in. And I think we've even got the Griffin project coming in with this, which is a whole youth program to get them into offshore sailing.
We're looking here at the Turkish Bank Express, which is an exciting one this year, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're claiming to be the first all-Turkish entry in the Rolex Fastnet race. And a big thumbs up to I believe the Bodrum Yacht Club. They'll be tuned into this, I can absolutely assure you. And they are flying the flag for Turkey. And Yiğit Erglu, I hope I got that right.
Yiğit Erglu, yes, he has been making waves literally in Turkey. This has been making national press, their participation in this competition.
Yeah, and then from the Bodrum area, and fantastic.
And Yiğit himself, interestingly, he just had a newborn baby 15 days ago. So he's been given some very special permission to take part in this today. Well, I'm sure he has absolutely no regrets. Less than 3.5 minutes to go now. Who are we looking at here?
We're actually getting confused now with spectators as well as the race fleet. And what's really nice is people want to be on the water to see this race happen. And I think that's really like an indication of how popular and what a spectacle it is.
Yeah, that tells us absolutely everything. Also taking part in this category, Scarlet Oyster. And this boat, I mean, Ross Appleby's family has been within this for over 30 years. He's done over 150,000 miles on board. He's definitely one to watch. And now we're just seeing Whiskey Jack. What do we know about Whiskey Jack?
There's a bit of silence there. It's a Royal Yacht Squadron J122, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well-known name in the Far East offshore scene.
Yeah, Nick Southwood's boat. And, you know, good luck to them. The J122 is a really good boat for this race. And we've got a lot of J-boats competing, right down to some of the newer designs.
I think these are good conditions for the J-boats. I think this, like the light upwind, they're narrow, they're pointy, they're going to be really good at the windward stuff, and with a windward lure, J's normally do very well if they're sailed well.
And right now we've got Crusade on screen, Nick Hayward Young, and a lovely story, little side story on Crusade. They needed a new sail. Jolt 3, one of the Admiral's Cup boats, had a sail that fitted the bill, and I won't say how much money it was, but the Jolt 3 said, no, give it to the Griffin project. So they gave them the sail, and they gave all of the money to the Griffin youth team.
Oh, so these are the stories. These are the stories that we don't tend to hear, you know, so I'm glad you're here, Louis, to provide us with a little bit of the background.
Yeah, I only hear it in the boatyard. I don't go anywhere near any hostelries to hear any of this.
But unless it's supported, youth sailing, it's hard to do. It's hard to get into, and you need that support network. And it's really lovely that dominant teams and programs are noticing that and actually helping develop the pathways.
And we're seeing more and more of that, you know, that sort of development, people trying to help each other along. What do you think, very briefly, Dee, what's going to make the difference within this fleet? What will it be? Navigation, helming, bit of risk taking? 1 minute to go.
This is about focus and this is about consistency. So you may have 2 or 3 really strong drivers, but over the course of 3-4 days that this race is going to take them, they need to make sure that they've always got some strong drivers. And it's about the key people not getting too tired, and it's about the others stepping up.
Okay, well, let's get down there then before the start of this race. Steve Cole.
The casual cruising boat right in the way. Okay, line is clear at 30 seconds. Not sure if we got anything out the other end. Still for Gmo, closest boat to the line with 30 seconds to go. 20 seconds to go, line is now clear.
Nothing at the far end.
So there's one far end, hard on starboard, coming up, timed run. Yellow foredeck, right at the far end.
942.
2, 1, go. All clear, line clear.
So all clear on this one, all clear. Does that surprise you?
No, I think this style of caution, they probably learned from the other ones, but they were all back a little bit. Nobody pushed their luck. Nobody was barging. They all seemed to give each other space, which is quite nice. We've got a couple on port tack on the line that were the first 2 boats over there, Sweet Caroline and this one following that are in shot now. And they're not having to duck the rest of the fleet. They've got a clear path now across to the island shore before they do the next tack.
Yeah, as you say, just a little bit more cautious than the IRC1 start, wasn't it? There's always a debate, Louis, isn't there? Because there's the idea between the older designs we were talking about, the heavier designs versus these new lightweight modern hulls that we're seeing. How do you think that's going to play out this year?
Well, we're looking at medium to light air for most of the race, so that tends to favour the boats that are lighter. That's, you know, a very broad statement. That doesn't necessarily pay through. But, you know, in a light airs Fastnet, you're probably looking at the lighter, faster boats that don't have as much drag, basically, is a fair one. But, you know, we thought we had 20 knots just outside the Southern. We haven't got 20 knots outside the Southern. After they get round the coast of Land's End, after they get into the Celtic Sea. I mean, that's virtually the Atlantic. Well, it is the Atlantic. So anything can happen in this race.
It is going to be one of those races where keeping a close eye on the conditions is just, I mean, for every race it's crucial, but this one in particular, you've been having a look at those conditions. It's going to be one that could change at any moment.
Yeah, so the forecast isn't quite living up to what the reality is. Outside at the Needles, it's just 7 knots, maybe gusting 11, which is much less than we thought. And we're seeing, if you look at the yellow brick tracker, which allows you to follow the Fastnet race and all the progress, the multi-hulls that were the first start are only just getting to the Needles Channel now, which is a surprise. And we've got Argo in front of everybody. So Brian Thompson knows the Solent very well. He knows this race very well. But, you know, that's an indication of how different the forecast is in reality. And sometimes you've just got to sail in what you see and make the best decisions.
We're just seeing Scarlet Oyster here at the moment, currently leading the IRC2 Season Points Championship. So certainly one to watch in this race.
And he's never normally off the podium of the Fastnet, is he, Louis?
No. If you've ever sailed with Ross, I'll tell you, there's 2 things in life that Ross Appleby loves. And that's sailing, and that's Sarah and his 2 girls, and that's it. You know, that's all he'll ever talk about. He'll either talk about his family or he'll talk about sailing. And so following in his father's footsteps, there's a trophy for the season which is named after his father as well. And Ross Appleby is a very accomplished sailor. Yeah, he's very, very rarely out the chocolates all over the place. He's been grounded a little bit with the 2 little ones.
That'll do it.
So, but yeah, good luck and hello at home to Sarah.
I'm sure they will be watching every step of the way. Let's head back down to the water and Nick and Andy and see what they can see down there.
Nikki, a little bit of a calmer start on that one, a little bit further away from the line, and a lot more starboard tack approaches. In the faster boats earlier on in the morning, everyone starting on port, everyone's saying, let's just get onto the favoured tack, guys. But here they can't afford to do that.
They can't afford to, but also I think, Chus came in on starboard and took everyone by surprise, and then everyone else probably watched and thought, well, that's quite a good idea, isn't it? Maybe we should give that one a go. Yeah, it was a lot more relaxed, I suppose. I'm not sure how they felt relaxed, but also these guys have been milling around for a fair few hours at this point, and perhaps that's calmed their nerves, calmed their anxiety. It does do that, actually. You get a bit more mellow, a bit more in the zone, and start to get in that offshore mindset of, okay, there's a long race ahead, and you get, there's less ego, less adrenaline, maybe.
But also, it is a long race, particularly for these smaller boats. And I imagine that the more experienced sailors know that they should get into their watch system, get their head down early for some sleep when you can, because you never know, further down the track, you may not get a chance to sleep. So I imagine if this is your first Fastnet, you just want to stay awake and take it all in around you. But how do you manage your energy?
It's a hard one, and this race in particular can be challenging with that, because this beat out the needles, especially in light winds, can take quite a long time. And if they've got, 5 knots less breeze than they thought, they might be out here for maybe a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours longer, and so they're going to have to reorientate their plan. So let's see what the next guys do. I wonder if they'll start pushing again.
Thanks for the moment. I think that the important thing to say about IRC2 as well, I mean, we think the Fastnet winner came from this category in 2021. We talk about the level and the crew that we have on board here, but they are fast enough to win this overall if the conditions align.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the important thing to say here is if you've got planing conditions, if you've got over 15 knots of wind throughout the race, the boats that can plane have a big advantage. If it's under 15 knots, the boats that can plane are paying their rating but not getting the reward. So the likes of these heavier displacement boats, they can get in a light race.
Well, let's see the start of the race once more. Hannah's been watching it very closely. Hannah, what have you spotted?
Yeah, that's right. And as you've already previously mentioned, a lot more of a big spread across the line. I think partly that could be due to the fact that the wind's getting a little bit lighter just off the start line here, but 2 boats at the port end sailing really nicely away from the fleet on that port tack, and just a lot more of a conservative start. It's so important to find a clear lane in these bigger classes, because if you can find clear air on the course, you can sail to the optimal kind of performance of your boat. And when we're racing in handicap, it's all about racing to your rating. You've got to try and beat the boats around you, but the fact that those boats are different sizes within your rating band means that you've really got to try and sail your boat to the best of your ability. We're still seeing some really close calls, with the boats on port having to avoid a lot of starboard boats who are still trying to come in to the island side just off the start line. And if you can just about nip through, then that's great and you can find a lane, but not always easy when you're trying to come out of attack onto port and lead across into the deeper water in the middle of the channel. We can see Scarlet Oyster having a really nice lane on port there. Not easy with a couple of boats underneath them, but again, a really, really busy fleet. Can be really tricky to find any space on the course in a fleet like this. So IRC2 away nicely and settling into their race.
Very much, Hannah. Yes, settling in nicely there. And Dee, what I find interesting, what Nikki was saying earlier on, and that if it is your first Fastnet race, that temptation to enjoy every second of it, to stay awake, just to take it all in, when actually sleep and eating, that's also crucial within the planning.
Absolutely the hardest thing to do when everyone's excited and adrenaline filled. Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm not tired at all. I'm not tired at all. You're just like, no, but I need you to have that same energy at midnight, at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning, in 3 days' time. And hopefully the practice races they've done, the training they've done, they will have talked through that and tried to set up a system. Most of these boats are going to be everybody awake until they're clear of the needles and they're on one long tack, and then they'll be, okay, let's get into the watch system, make sure people eat some lunch, and let's start managing people, because they need everybody to be on their game in 3 days' time and 4 days' time.
Yeah, there was a conversation yesterday about, what sort of food you pack on board, and it was interesting, the variety from people just packing pretty dry sandwiches and crisps, and other people who had lasagnas and all sorts of things ready to go. What was your meal of choice?
Well, I think it all depends on what boat you're on and what facilities you have. That ability to put a lasagna in the oven is on a certain type of boat perfect, but for others they've got a jet ball and they need freeze-dried food, and you've got everything in between. But don't underestimate a morale boost of a little chocolate bar.
Yeah, that or a little Jaffa cake. I'm a fan of that. Okay, let's go down to Hurst Castle now, because we actually do have some boats who have finally made it to the first landmark, Hannah.
Yeah, that's right. And Argo, the Mod 70, was the first boat to reach that landmark at Hurst Castle. And so it's been probably a much slower transition through the Solent than some of these boats were expecting. But you can see them here sailing nicely on starboard, not quite as powered up as they maybe would have been hoping to be, not quite able to stretch their legs, but relatively, you know, these boats are not that maneuverable, but you can see Argo, being a smaller boat, has managed to beat SVR L'Azurtique through to Hurst Castle, just being slightly smaller and more nimble than the Ultime Trimarans. SVR L'Azurtique actually opted to tack over onto port and go to the west of the Shingles Bank, so a really interesting option through there. A small gap they had to get through in Hurst Narrows, choosing to tack away and sail into Poole, Christchurch Bay, obviously favouring the wind that way. Next up was a huge group of the Multihulls, and we had Interinvest the next through, doing really nicely in the Ocean 50 class, closely followed by Cosio. You can see them just lifting that windward hull, so being a little bit more powered up than we saw them when they were at the start line, but really, really close racing for the Multihull fleet at this point in the race. From here, they should be able to stretch their legs, really, really open up the engines as they sail into more breeze, more open sea, and this is where they're going to do their damage on the overall results.
Thank you very much. Looking at that, what's interesting, yes, some of the smaller boats actually enjoying these conditions today.
More manoeuvrable, easier to get around the corners, don't stop so much. With a multi-hull especially, every time you tack you practically stop, and if you don't quite get it right you end up having to reverse out before you can start going forwards again. Tacking in light winds is like their Achilles heel, and that's exactly what they've had to do going down the Solent.
How important is that at this stage of the race? It is early days, of course, but to have that early lead, what does that mean?
Well, for Argo being ahead of an Ultime at Hurst, I would say that they were stroking the cat. But I think a little bit of technical here. Argo has lifting foils, but when you're not lifting those foils, you're dragging them, and the Ultime has more foils. Over to D on that.
Yeah, so a lot of the old teams have the foils to generate lift, but also the T-foils on the rudders as well. But it's just literally the platform size is so big that manoeuvre of turning from one tack to the other is, you know, it's critical. It's like a game changer. If they could, they would drive their way around so they could keep movement.
Well, our attention turns now to IRC3. This really is the heart of the Fastnet fleet. We're talking about the club sailors here, the Corinthian crews, you know, the owner drivers, all just battling it out. I think we can manage to get on board Alwina actually just now. We'll take a look. This is Alwina for Pure Ocean. This is great to be able to see what exactly they're doing in those final minutes before the race. What's happening now?
So they're travelling along the line, trying to set up, they're trying to position themselves so they can get in. It's a JPK 1050, and what they're doing, they're sailing double-handed, so they will have pinged the line, they will be trying now to position themselves and try and execute the start that they've prepared for. Now, the only limiting factor to that is all the other traffic around them, of whether they can execute their plan or whether they get changed to plan B or plan C or plan D.
For a lot of these crews, I think finishing this race is a huge achievement in itself, but at the same time we can't underestimate the talent within these crews.
Yeah, absolutely, and the JPK 1050, brand new design. I think we've got 4 or 5 in this race, and I've got to though go Sniffix dry. This is this guy is absolutely lovely. He did the 7-star round Britain and Ireland race, and it is the guy on the helm. I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, we've got it written for me. Thank you very much, team. That's Mr. Zimmerman. He was fully dressed, you know, new shirt, everything, when he finished the round Britain and Ireland race, 1,800 miles in that boat. And his wife met him, and they had a gin and tonic on Trinity. It was marvellous. He is an absolute absolutely beautiful human being, that man.
Like, that is high praise indeed. And for a lot of these, you know, they have the best stories, I think, as well. We've got so many family crews and all-female teams and first-time skippers as well.
Yeah, it's a real kind of cut-your-teeth breeding ground. It's if you're going to take something on, the boats are manageable, the crew sizes are manageable, and it's something there where you feel comfortable. And there's a lot of racing for them to do to build up to this as well. As we're seeing more and more double-handed crews, this is the big fleet, and Mzungo get some really good results in their double-handed racing, so they'll be looking for a good result here too.
Yeah, skipper by Sam Wight and Sam North there. Now, obviously, many of the fleet are old hats at the Fastnet, but for some, as I mentioned, this is the first time they've ever taken on an adventure like this, just like the crew on the classic Far 1-ton Phantom. And we spoke to their skipper, Jussi Rissanen, to get his thoughts ahead of the race.
Because it is something that every sailor has to do at least once in their lifetime. It is like the Mount Everest of sailing. You just gotta do it. I've been dreaming about it for a long time, and right now I felt the time is right. It's a long race. It's a long course. You know, you're heading out on the open water. You need that endurance, and you need a certain. Well, I think most of it is preparation. You have to prepare as a boat, as a team. You gotta have the right team together. You gotta do practice. You have to have gear that you can depend on. You gotta have people that you know, that you can depend on how they're gonna act if the weather is gonna turn bad. Because in the end, you wanna head back to port in good spirits, ideally after finishing the race with a good standing on the scoreboard. To get a good result for us as a team would be that we are making a clean start, good race, and we finish in Cherbourg. Every system is working, our crew is happy, and we can take part of the celebration of the 100th edition.
Yeah, really interesting to hear from Jussi Rissanen there as we just count down into the final minutes before the start of IRC3. And we're talking about first-timers here, but there are others that have these fascinating stories, including the Rourke Griffin as well, which is one I really want to focus on. 4 minutes to go. That was the 4-minute warning.
1947, the Royal Ocean Racing Club started the Griffin programme, Holly. It's still running today, and it has one goal, and that is to promote youth and new sailors as well into offshore racing. And the Rourke has really turbocharged what's been going on with the Griffin programme in the last few years. Chair is Jim Driver, and really pushing hard to get more youth in. We put out a call to the youth. We had over 300 sailors apply, went to a boot camp, and this is the second year of that. And you know, Dee is what has been one of the coaches for the Griffin team, and she can tell you all about who we got out today.
Yeah, indeed, it is so important. You know, when we're looking at the Griffin here, which we can see just now in vision, this crew sailed by a team of young members. They're all aged 18 to 30, all participating in the Griffin Fund. And we are looking at the next generation of offshore sailors.
That's what's really cool. And actually in this boat in particular, it's an all-female crew, coached by Hugh Brayshaw, who's racing with them. And they've done a series of Rourke races throughout the season. But I remember the first time I came in to talk to all the Griffin sailors, and the questions they asked were really wide-ranging, from what clothes to wear to how to do the navigation and everything in between, how to feed everybody. And they've really learned not only the sailing, the strategy, the tactics, but also the logistics and the planning and running a campaign. And it's really brought them close together. And Nicole was selected as the skipper, Nicole Hemerick, and that was just because of her interaction with the team and how she led them. And you know, any of them could have done it, and they've really kind of come together, and this is their pinnacle, this is their bucket list tick. And I'm really sure we're going to see all those sailors on some really impressive sailing and racing going forwards as well.
There is a lot of excitement around them, and again, chatting to Nicole yesterday, still they're aware of the significance of what it is that they're doing, but also they're competitive.
But also now they're the role models, they're the inspiration for the younger ones. So it was really, I feel like I'm handing the baton over a little bit, and it's great to see them doing such a good job. And they've got a super competitive boat, and what's quite funny in this class is they actually race against the Griffin project director, because Jim Driver's racing double-handed in this class. So they really want to go and prove to him how good they've got.
Yeah, and Hugh Brayshaw is on board, but he really is standing back and letting them shine. He's on the boat, but he is not going to be telling them what to do. That is totally up to them.
Absolutely. We're just approaching 1 minute to go to the start of the IRC3, and I can tell you right on cue, of course, the rain is starting. Which it wouldn't be the Fastnet without a little bit of rain if I didn't get soaked. That's the 1 minute warning. We can see on board once again Alwina for Pure Ocean there in those final seconds before the race starts. But let's get down there now to Steve Cole.
Got 7-9, ending 7-9, closest boat with 8-4-3-8 the other side. 8-4-3-8 is now closest boat to the line.
6-8-4.
6-8-4, far end of the line. 6-8-4 is the closest boat line. 3-4-6-3-2. 3-4-6-3-2, OCS. 1971 is not OCS, 1971 is still clear, it's just about to go over. 1971 is over. 9843 is over. 53229 is over. 4343, 7799. Stand by for the numbers, there's going to be a lot of them. 4344, 7385 Romeo. 6779.
1627.
8438. That doesn't matter.
Okay, well, we'll take over there because Steve's got a lot to contend with here. What is going on?
That was really competitive stuff, and I'm not surprised by this fleet, but what was really scary is one of the boats called over actually wasn't aware of the ruling that it's a 2-hour penalty and you do not go back, and actually bore away and sailed into the rest of the fleet coming towards him. And we can see them on there, so they're still going to get their 2-hour penalty, even though they're going through this painful process of going back against the tide behind the fleet and turning and starting again. So
Rev de souffle there, they will be having
not a great start for them.
Not a great start. I'm sure they're full of regret in that situation, but it is, those decisions that are made in a split second, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Isn't it?
I wouldn't have positioned myself there, I wouldn't have tacked there, and I would have positioned myself behind this other boat, but hindsight, well, it's a learning curve.
Well, and these boats got no brakes. The tide's pushing you over the line. You've got other boats behind you. It's difficult when you're out there. It's a lot more difficult, much more confused.
Absolutely, it's a very different ballgame when you're out there. Well, let's go back on board Alwina for Pure Ocean. That's what we're seeing just now. And you can just see the changes in conditions there and what they're having to deal with. What will they be doing right now?
So they were heading towards the island side, and we've just seen them tack. They've got a clear lane, they've got no traffic, and so now they're on port and they're heading out towards the island. The next concern for them is they have to give way to all the starboard boats, so that will be what they're looking out for.
A very different outlook, wasn't it, from the IRC2, who seemed very composed in comparison. So you just wonder, they've been waiting on the sidelines for this moment now for so long, and the excitement almost becomes too much. And it is just down to that, isn't it? It's just excitement, it's nerves, and this is the moment it all builds up to.
That's right, and these heli shots are fantastic for us to see, understand the lanes everybody's sailing in, and how disturbed air comes from the sail, and how if you're on the opposite tack, you've got to weave your way through if you're the giveaway boat. And I think this is a really nice way to understand what we're trying to talk about, because it's very hard on the water to see. When you're on the boat, the other boats feel super close. But actually on the water, it looks like they're on the helicopter. There's loads of space. What are they worried about? But yeah, manoeuvring your boat and getting clean manoeuvres is critical for a clean air and a good getaway.
And I think, at this point in the race, this is where the relationships between the crew members really come into it, because a lot of these crews, they've worked together for a very long time, and that familiarity can be really crucial, in fact, in these sort of conditions.
And you don't need any frustration or people getting upset with anything. Someone's going to make a mistake. It happens. But how you deal with it is the indication of how good your team is. If you can bounce back from adversity or something going wrong and come out the other side, then you'll get stronger from it, and you get closer as a team as well with that.
OK, let's get back down to the water then, get the bird's eye view from Nikki and Andy.
Yeah, just following on from that, Dee, I think, you know, this is such a psychological sport, and it's going to be interesting to see how those boats who were pushed back on the start, or who even actually went back over the line, how they pick up. Can they push through that? Can they find some good spirits? I'm sure that lunch might be a critical factor in that. I'm wondering when they're eating.
Well, there's a hint drop there from Nikki. It's a little bit of rain here, and you got your camera out just before the start of IRC3 because there was that dramatic dark cloud over the top of the fleet. What effect do you think that's had?
Yeah, it just felt like there was a little bit of a lull just in that sort of last minute of the start there. So I wonder if that kind of compressed some of the air or something. But yeah, I'm partial to this fleet because my last race was in a J109, also with a teenage team. So I'm partial to the fleet, and I'm excited to see how the Griffin boat does.
The other thing that impresses me when you're up close to the boats, as we've just been able to be as they came off the start, is how do you manage in close quarters with just two people on board? If you're sailing a double-hander and you're trying to juggle all those sheets and the steering and everything else, incredibly challenging, I imagine.
Yeah, I saw Tigris go in very last. They appear lots on the IRC circuit, and they're a double-handed fleet. And oh yeah, there's Mazungo as well that you guys can see, double-hander as well, and they have to take that for sure into consideration when they're approaching the line, which it seems like they do. It seems like they know that they're a bit slower to manoeuvre than the other boats. But my goodness, they got to work well together.
And to the uninitiated, if you don't know your ports and your starboards and the various other rules of the road in sailing, it must be mesmerising. And you must wonder how on earth everybody misses everybody else, the way they interweave with each other. But so far, so good. We've actually seen, for all the traffic and congestion, we've seen some clean starts.
Yeah, that's what's really amazing about the Fastnet. You know, you have pros, you have Corinthian sailors, but then when you look at the actual standard of the sailing, it is excellent across the board.
As it will be in IRC4.
So, Nikki, Andy, thanks very much for the moment. We're going to go to Hannah now because we want to see the start of that race again, because let's face it, it was a little bit chaotic, Hannah.
Yeah, that's right. And we can see so many boats really fighting for this end of the line. And, you know, the tide is much more even across the course now. So perhaps surprising to see some teams so willing to take so many risks and be at this squadron end of the line. Quite a few boats called over there, so we'll be carrying that 2-hour time penalty. And in a fleet like this, you know, they've got to be getting clear air, trying to get away from the start line. You can see the tactician on board here just trying to call time and distance to the line. They had to come back, make a nice big sweep down before the start gun went. And you can see, just as perhaps the wind died off a little bit, that tide is still pushing them really fast across to the west, the right-hand side of our screen. So perhaps slightly underestimating the impact of the tide in the deep water off the corner of Cowes here. And another really congested start line. The boats towards the bottom of the screen, more in the middle of the start line, just taking a bit less risk. And for this boat here, just obviously not quite being sure of the penalty that is applied for being over the line. So not only will they have to carry that 2-hour penalty, they will also trying to get their way back to the line, which put them behind the fleet and gave them a really, really tricky way. They've now given themselves a really, really hard task to catch up for the rest of the race.
Okay, Hannah, thank you very much. Well, it makes it all the more exciting, doesn't it? But it does take us now to the final start, and it is the biggest fleet as well. It's the IRC4. Okay, Dee, so like I say, I mean, these are, it's the biggest fleet, the smallest boats, and arguably, as I said earlier, the biggest hearts.
Definitely, because they're out there for longer. I mean, everyone goes, oh, you know, the other boats at the front of the fleet are going so fast and it's so full on. Well, these guys suffer more weather systems, they have more tactical decisions, they're more likely to miss the tidal gates. So actually they have a whole tougher race. all the time.
And the longest, arguably, as well. They're out there for quite some time. And they do it, Louis, with grit and determination.
They do. And we had Tim Goodhue at the press conference, who's racing double-handed on Cora. And all I'm going to say about Tim, he's sailing with Kelvin Matthews, and they are best mates, you know, and they are doing so well. They're winning the series, and they're after a memorable Fastnet, and winning it will be the cherry on the top. But it's something else. I mean, Dee's done thousands of miles on a road and also with crew, and it's a bond that will be there for life. It never breaks.
And who you sail with makes a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that, you know, the double-handed there, and chatting to Tim Goodhue, and I said, you speak to a lot of double-handeds, and they do say it's the only way to race. He disputed that, to be fair. He says, no, it's absolutely not, which Dee will agree with. And plenty of the sailors in IRC4 are double-handed. So we decided to sit down with two of the most experienced double-handed sailors on the circuit. That's Sam Wight and Richard Palmer, to find out why exactly is it so appealing.
So I think what makes a good double-handed partner is someone whose strengths are slightly different to your own and cover your own weak spots, so that both of you can offer synergy on the boat to be able to be strong in all areas. The fact that there's only two of you on the boat, it's really your result when you do get a result, and you feel really engaged and involved in every part and every decision that's made.
Well, this is my 12th Fastnet. It's a challenge, but I'm also, more importantly, I'm doing it with my daughter this year. We did it 2 years ago, so we're looking for a good classic Fastnet race together with my daughter this year. It's great fun to race with my daughter. It's a different dynamic. It's you know, she's on the early stages of the learning curve. I have a lot of experience to offer. So it's just great to spend some time with her, and hopefully she'll develop and learn and enjoy the race and have a great time together. It's just great to share the experience with her.
Yeah, to get a good result in the Fastnet is one, it's tough. Two, it's very rewarding. And it's the culmination of lots of learning experiences, because we can all be lucky, but there's lots of people that get lucky out there, so you've got to be good and lucky.
To get a good result on this would be a huge credit to both myself and to Sophie and all she brings to the partnership and the team.
I like that bit of a cheers at the end there, says it all. But look, Richard talking there about sailing with his daughter, and that's what I was saying earlier about the relationships and how important that is, and we see that a lot within the IRC4. They're not necessarily out there chasing trophies. They're chasing a different type of goal. This is a dream.
Yeah, and that's what's really lovely when you see the families do it, when there's a siblings or father-daughter, or there's, you know, Lisa with her children. It's a different time that you spend with your family members, and it's not like any other time. You know, there's no other distractions on a boat. It's not like you're going to stick the TV on and put your feet up or go and eat a different meal. You know, you're kind of in it together, and this is an experience that's shared that no one else will understand, and you carry that bond then throughout. And I think that's what's really powerful, especially when you see the families that do it.
Yeah, funny, you mentioned Linda there on Bedouin in the IRC1, and I asked her, you know, how much the dynamic changes, and she says, what do you mean? It doesn't change at all. You know, she's the skipper, and that's exactly it. That she just means that she runs a tight ship, let's put it that way. Nothing changes. But for this, I mean, for the IRC4 competitors, it's such a range that we have here, and that is to say what makes them so special. But I think you have a different type of respect for them.
I do. I think, you know, for me, if these light winds stay as forecast, our winner could come from here. And, you know, the JPKs are really putting the Sunfast under pressure, but Sunfast 3200 loves a windward leeward, loves a light course. And as we say, Cora has such a massive reputation of success in the Rourke races and the Fastnet. It'd be super interesting, you know, how it plays out, I don't know, but the fact that we've only just got the multi-hulls leaving, and these guys are on their start is a testament to the light winds.
And we're watching the starting line here, and they're quite far away. Do we have an explanation as to why they're so far inland compared to the other boats?
Yeah, why would you go pin end here?
So it's really funny because it's just so completely opposite to what we've just seen for the last 8 starts. But now we've got the start, the tide equal all the way across. We haven't got any huge gains, so they want deep water, they want minimal manoeuvres. And now we're seeing more boats come in on starboard because they want rights. This is a really busy course, so they want to give themselves enough room to be on starboard, which takes them to the island shore before they have to do a manoeuvre and tack and go out on port. They're not going to come flying in here and do a port tack. However, if somebody wanted to do that now, they've got massive amounts of space to get a really good start on port.
But nobody is, eh? I can't see anybody down here.
It's a little bit as well with this class. If the dominant characters, if the dominant players in this fleet go there, then everyone else tends to go with them. It's like children's football, you know, and they run after the ball, they all run together.
So right now we can see just on board Astrid right now, a very young crew here.
Yeah, so this is skippered by Paddy Moriarty. His dad, Rob's on board. He's the grown-up, basically. And, sorry, Tom, I beg your pardon, Tom. And they're just all friends, and they're all in their 20s. They don't have a lot of offshore experience, but they've done the entire Rourke season, and they are meticulous about that boat. I've been down there about their safety gear, about checking in, all their paperwork and everything else.
Yeah.
And the boat's based in Hamble, and they know each other through dinghy, sailing in school and things like that, and they're all in their 20s. And I think only Tom, the dad, has actually done the Fastnet before, and the rest are just a bunch of friends from school.
Yeah,
and
in
sailing
university,
clubs.
yeah, they're all university graduates, and yeah, the design of this one for Astrid was created for the Admiral's Cup, actually. And their main aim, according to skipper Patrick Moriarty, is to complete the race safely.
There you go. And again, it shows a massive diversity of the boats in IRC4. This is a 44-foot Swan that weighs about 14 tons.
Wow.
And then you've got something like a JPK 1010. That's 30 feet long and probably weighs a couple of tons.
And 50 years apart in build and design.
And that says it all really about the IRC4, doesn't it? You just have that range of experience, range of boats, and that must be quite daunting sitting in the midst of all that. If you are one of the younger members, the more inexperienced, the one, you know, whose boat is perhaps that little bit, you know, less used to these types of waters, that's a lot to contend with.
Yeah, but how cool, how exciting.
Cool,
yeah, I mean, they're like concentrating because they want to put everything they've learned together. And imagine you get a good start and you look around and suddenly the rest of your 90 boats on the start line are behind you. I mean, yeah, that smile will last them. They'll be like, remember that Fastnet start the first time we did it.
And on that trophy, there is the name of the JPK 1010. And that name is Night and Day, and that was Pascal and Alexis Loison. And father and son have won the Challenge Cup in 2013.
It's a sign, and I mean,
they had so many trophies, and there's only 2 of them, they had to have help to get them all off the stage.
And what it would mean, I think, for any sailor taking part in this today, I mean, we mentioned it a lot, that it is the centenary. It is hugely significant to have your name on that trophy today, what that would mean.
Oh, just having your name on the trophy full stop is amazing. But when you put it on a year that is crowded with everybody celebrating, I think China adds it up because everyone goes, oh, that Fastnet. You know, you remember specific Fastnets. It's every 2 years. It's not every year. So, you know, the opportunity to do this race isn't that easy. They open up the registration in January and literally they book all the places and they have the reserve list within minutes.
Wow.
I mean, it's just incredible. There aren't many sporting activities that can claim that.
As we heard from UC Risinen earlier on, this, for many people here today and anyone who ever wants to compete in this, it is the Everest.
It is, but it's an accessible Everest, and there's options and there's ways to do it. Whether you become a charter boat and do it, or whether you own a boat, or whether you go onto a boat that allows you to pay and play, you know, pay for your place and get the opportunity to join a race crew and do the race.
Just watching Sunstone here with the wooden hull, I mean, we don't see that quite as often, do we?
So when this boat, it came back actually for a sort of second try, You know, it went into sort of whatever you call it, hibernation, came back, and they just beat everybody. Just beat everybody. This beautiful wooden boat, and she's Will Taylor-Jones is the skipper, and she's a Sparkman Stevens 39, and that is a real classic for particularly for the Rolex Fastnet race, and she was unbeatable at one stage, and you know what? If the conditions suit her, we could easily get, and that's the beauty of it, because the weather plays a huge part in who wins overall for the Challenge Cup.
So finally, before we head down there to Steve once more, who have you got your eye on today? It's the one thing we haven't stated in this category.
Oh, what for? For the
IRC4.
Oh well, I'm not. I'm going to go Jetpack, which is a JPK 1010. They're currently leading the Rourke Seasons Points Championship. They're from Sussex.
Completely Corinthian.
Completely Corinthian, and I'm going to go Jetpack. I've got a feeling Dee's not.
No, because I'm going to challenge your JPK 1010 with a Sunfast 3200.
Ooh.
And I think Cora's the game in this fleet.
Okay, all right.
A hard one to argue with. Okay, that is the 1 minute warning. This is the final one, the IRC4. So let's get back down to Principal Race Officer, and Steve Cole is waiting.
771 is coming closest, bearing away now. Very close to the line, but bearing away now.
40.
He is right on it, but he is currently clear. 30 seconds, line is clear. The boat now coming up, Blue Crew, ending in T. Can't see the numbers yet, but the line is still clear. The line is still clear. 10 seconds, line is still clear. Line one going over now. That first number that we said. And then 948, so okay. 36771 9487 Romeo.
Thanks, Steve. So a couple of early boats there once again. Who are we seeing here?
Well, they got an absolute flyer. Well, I think the line was called clear. That was correct, wasn't it? And I'm pretty sure that's Jamira. That's Frederick Neville-Jones and Robin Hardy and George Neville-Jones. And that's a hell of a start from a J109, I tell you.
And really good conditions for a J109 as well. They're really good, slightly narrower, pointy boats are good for the flat water upwind, and they're going to like all the conditions on the way to the rock.
Yeah, 10 of them in this race, and they have their own trophy. There's a J109 trophy for the Rolex Fastnet race as well. So that's a race within IRC4.
And that's what, again, we were saying this earlier on, there are lots of little trophies and competitions to win within this race, and that was what makes it so everyone has their eye on their own prize. Who are we seeing here now? Let's see. That's still Jamira heading off there, so that is an excellent start.
And what they've done is they're the boat closest to the island, and they've now tacked relatively early. They haven't gone as far as they can, but they've gone to make sure they stay in front of the rest of the fleet. So they're playing a tactical game already.
This is what I was just going to say. This is what it comes down to. This is tactics. I mean, they have planned this out perfectly.
Yeah, and the reason they are so in clear air and not having to deal with the traffic is because they were all the way over to the island, and we see the rest of the fleet are beyond halfway of the line towards the mainland side. So they've got the place to themselves, and they are now going back so that they don't separate from the fleet, and they make sure they establish themselves in front of the fleet.
They will be very happy with that start. And overall, from the IRC4s, I mean, that was a great start. All looking very, very confident in this. And again, we mentioned earlier on that kind of mix of experience here, that mix of youth and those who have done this a few times before. And it's the perfect mix.
It is nice, and these conditions are lovely for them. There's nothing scary, there's nothing too excited. It's less wind than forecast. The tide is strong, but we can see this really big cloud cover, and that's what's stopping the sea breeze building or any change. And that's why it's kind of light and a little bit fickle, and we're not seeing the forecast, 20 knots. Even outside at the Needles, we're only seeing 10 knots of breeze max.
Okay, let's get back down to the water now. Nikki and Andy watching on. What do you think?
So a completely different start. There's been a 90-degree wind shift compared with what the first starters experienced an hour or two ago. I can only be grateful, Nikki, that it happened as late as it did, because we just haven't had a look in on that start. They're nowhere close to us.
Yeah, I think I was saying, we were talking about, you know, when they're so far away from the line markings. You know, some of the faster boats, they're going to have electronics, and they're going to have a digital representation of the line, of their GPS. But a lot of these boats won't. They'll be doing the start on eye. And if they don't know the start well, starting all the way over to the other end of the line, it's quite hard to tell where the line is. So they did all well to have a clean one. That's probably why they were all a bit further back.
Right, but, well, most of them were further back, and then there were those over-the-line casualties that have to pay that 2-hour time penalty. That's, of course, going to be very painful.
I mean, I love this fleet. I think no one can help but love an underdog. So, look, there's Astrid. I mean, I think even people who own the fast, like, Super Zero boats, sort of deep down in their heart, would love it if one of these guys won. So it's great to see. It's great to see a big fleet here.
What also impresses me is that you think of this as the starter fleet, but it's really not. And one example of that is Simeon Tiempont, former Volvo Ocean Race veteran, has raced around the world in the super fast boats like Volvo 70s, and here he is racing in a J35, a 1984 vintage J35, and really going back to the roots of sailing in boats that probably would be considered fairly big 50 or 60 years ago, but are now the small ones.
Yeah, I think that's for anyone watching the sport. You know, it's so interesting. Sailing's so interesting in that just because you aren't on the pro boat doesn't mean you aren't essentially a pro. And yeah, it'll be good to watch what happens to this fleet.
Well, that's it. The last start has gone past us here on the water. Back to you.
Thanks both. As you say, not positioned perfectly for that one. It was so far away. But look, we're watching now. We've got Jetpack on the screen here, Dee. We've managed to find that for you.
I know, and they're the ones that are leading on IRC. So as series points go for the championship, you know, the Fastnet's a really key race for them. It's really good coefficient, so it's lots of points worth. And, you know, they want to build on the success they've had for the season so far.
And I tell you what, I know Jetpack and Cora have come so close in so many races recently. They definitely see each other as the nemesis for this class.
It's certainly shaping up to be an interesting race, and it is early days just yet. But from what you've seen so far, is there anyone who you think is looking particularly confident, looking particularly strong, who will be sitting there thinking that was the perfect start? We're in a good position here.
Well, do you know what? Out of all the starts, we've seen some really competitive starts. We didn't doubt that the Admiral's Cup were going to be as feisty as they were on the start line. But this start, as IRC4, it's got the shift here, and they're going to get a different breeze at the end as they leave the Solent. But, I mean, what a lovely start they've had. Low stress, straight line. They're all going for as long as they can, and then a turn upwind now as they get further along the Solent.
And looking at Mojo rising there as well. I mean, we said it earlier, it's such a competitive category, this one, in the sense that we know they're enjoying themselves. They know that not all will be looking for line honours. They'll not all be looking for titles, but...
Yeah, this is Rob Cottrell's Mojo Rising. He's a class chairman for the J109s in the UK, and I can assure you they will have a right old laugh in this race. Yes. They like a good time. They're good fun.
And that's what I mean. A lot of them are here, and, you know, they're here to enjoy themselves. They're here to have a good time, trying to remain competitive. But look at that. I mean, where else would you rather be right now?
And they'll have a good party in Cherbourg en Cotentin, I can tell you. The J109 will have a little bit of a get-together.
OK, well, let's take a look at the starting line once again. As we say, it was that far away from us, but hopefully Hannah has had a much better look than we did.
Yeah, very different start for this final start in IRC4, but no less competitive, that's for sure. We can see the fleet up in the middle of the Solent there, taking the starboard end of the line, the windward end of the line. There's a big right shift that's happened, which has allowed the boats to sail on starboard rather than the making tack being port off the line. We had just 2 boats down near us at the Squadron end of the line who looked to get away really cleanly, and they'll just be hoping that they weren't any of the boats who are identified as being early over that start. They're going to have plenty of space, but it does always feel a little bit risky when you're that far separated from the fleet early on, so they'll be looking to consolidate that and get back in touch with the fleet as soon as they can. For these boats in the middle of the pack, it's going to be about finding as much space as they can. These boats are all evenly matched in terms of speed, so finding some space, being able to find some clear air in a nice lane is going to be key, especially because I think a lot of these boats are going to be holding on starboard for quite a long time. They've got plenty of distance until they reach the island shore in really great tide. So your crew work, your trimming, everyone on board is going to have to be at maximum focus for this first part of the race, with everyone neck and neck at this early stage. All of the maneuvers are going to have to be really well executed, as we can see here. J109 Jumeirah just going into attack. One of our ones to watch, Jetpack, the JPK 1010. You can see some weight down to leeward. It is still quite light out there. The breeze is picking up as we move up the Solent, and this right shift looks like it's holding all the way. So really nicely positioned there. So now we're going to take you down to Hurst Castle, where Elodie Bonifu's Imoca 60 had a really nice lead for the Imoca class going through Hurst. They must have sailed really well through the Solent to overtake Paprec, who were leading at the start. You can see they're much more powered up than they were at the start time. That windward foil just dragging in the water, not giving them any lift on that leeward side at the moment. You can see Paprec here, that bow just starting to lift as the breeze is starting to pick up as they exit the Solent. They can really start to stretch their legs here. Be Water Positive also must have had a great Solent exit to catch up and be in this front pack as they exited the Solent. They've got a choice now to make. Do they carry on through the Needles Channel, or do they tack away onto port and sail a little bit further west of the Shingles Bank? They've got to make that choice just as they leave Hurst Castle, and that will be the first kind of big split of the fleet that we can see. You can see Chiral opting to tack over onto port, making that extra maneuver. These Imocas are not particularly maneuverable. They lose a lot of speed in those maneuvers. They've got to be really sure that the strategic choice they're making is going to be worth those extra maneuvers. But you can see just how strong that tide is as they go through Hurst Castle. Sam Davies on Initiative Kerr, they didn't have the best start, but managed to catch up and be just at the back of this front pack of the Imoca 60s. And from here, we can start to see that there's a real consolidation of a lot of the fleets. We have some of the smaller, slower multi-hulls still coming through, and then we've still got some of the boats, we've got some of the boats from IRC Super Zero and IRC Zero starting to catch up, so it's getting really compact and condensed as they get through there. And here we can now go live from Hurst, and we've got Varuna coming through the German boat, really nice and powered up on starboard there. They are, sorry, I think that was a few moments ago. If we catch up to now live, a lot of the fleet is now starting to make their way through Hurst Castle. Jolt 52, really nice and powered up. The breeze is much stronger than it has been down here. And that Admiral's Cup fleet just really compact as they're making their way through to make their first big strategic choices of the race.
That, Hannah, it is fascinating to watch, and we will be joined by the team in the studio in just a moment to try to digest all the action on the start line. There was so much to get through, but right now we want to welcome the Rourke CEO, Jeremy Wilton, who joins me. Hello, Jeremy, lovely to catch up with you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
A very good afternoon. I mean, what a start. I mean, there's so much to unpack there. What are your thoughts in the first few hours?
Well, I mean, it's just an outstanding start in our centenary year to have this many boats, a world record for the Fastnet race, the Rolex Fastnet race, and we're just delighted as a club to have, 460 boats of the highest standard, the highest quality, from, top-notch professionals down to the Corinthians, and it's that breadth of boat and that breadth of competitor which makes the Rolex Fastnet race the special race it is.
It is exactly what defines this race, that length and breadth of competitors and boats, and the fact that we are marking 100 years, the centenary here today, and you've been doing so much to try to mark the occasion.
Correct. We've been holding dinners around the world because we have a large profile of our membership is overseas. Of the 4,000 members we have as part of the Royal Ocean Racing Club, we've brought back the Admiral's Cup, which I'm sure you've mentioned in your commentary, which is after a gap of 22 years. And the response we've had to that has been outstanding. We've got 15 high-quality teams from around the world who are here competing in cows for what is a unique event in yacht racing. 2 boat teams, and that combination of inshore and offshore with the culmination of the series being the Rolex Fastnet race. There's nothing like it in the world, and that's what made it the competition that it had and the history and the legacy that it has and that everyone wants to be part of again.
You're absolutely right. Everybody does. It's another record-breaking fleet this year. We spent so long, you know, with the centenary celebrations looking back at the history, but it has such a bright future, and this race just keeps going from strength to strength. It's getting bigger every year.
Correct. Biggest offshore race in the world. Yeah, and we can't thank everyone enough for coming and being part of the occasion, especially in our centenary year. In 23, we had the 50th race because we hold them biannually. So some people may get confused of why it's 100 years. And we're obviously celebrating 100 years of the first race in 1925. And when you look at the way that yacht racing's developed from Jolly Breeze in 1925 to the hybrid racing yachts you've seen out here, watching across our broad section of starts from the hybrid high-speed trimarans, catamarans, to the big 100-footers, which are outstanding boats to look at and watch, to the Admiral's Cup fleet. And again, we can't emphasize enough the large number of Corinthian sailors, amateur sailors, who come out every 2 years to be part of what potentially could be their Everest. This is their adventure, and this could be the biggest thing they'll do in their sailing career, is to be part of this very historic, this legendary race, the Rolex Fastnet race.
Yeah, funny you mention it being the Everest. That's the line that has been used by so many of the competitors and those taking part that I've spoken to. And there's a lot of organisation involved with this. I mean, the planning for the Fastnet, that never stops, essentially. It was 2 years ago we were stood here talking about the 50th edition, and then as soon as that one finishes, it's straight back down again and planning the next one.
Well, yes, correct. And again, there's so many different people involved. We obviously do the finish in Cherbourg as well. So we obviously do a lot of work. We work very closely with our colleagues in France and putting the whole race village together and all the entertainment, and everyone who finishes and gets to Cherbourg, which I hope all the fleet will. Obviously 2 years ago was slightly different with the conditions. There's a great programme they've got going on in Cherbourg, entertainment-wise, and also that celebration of this, this huge achievement of finishing this hugely challenging race. And yes, you're so right, Ollie. It takes literally from the day we're planning on 2027, and also the Admiral's Cup journey. We started looking at how we could bring back the Admiral's Cup in our centenary year nearly 3 years ago now, looking at all the different ways, the combinations, 2 boat teams, the range of the rating we use under IRC for that competition. And it's great to be where we are, and as I mentioned earlier, having 15 of the highest quality teams from around the world competing.
You mentioned the Admiral's Cup there, and that I feel like it's changed the dynamic somewhat this year. There's been almost a bit of a buzz, more of even an atmosphere than there even normally would be around cows. How's it been this week?
Yeah, it's been astonishing. I mean, the quality is like a who's who of sailing. The quality of the sailors competing on the different boats from around the world has been outstanding. And it's great to see cows so busy, the atmosphere, the environment, having a whole plethora of international sailors here. The bars have been busy, the cafes, the restaurants. And I think it's brought back that vibe again that Cows was renowned for when we had the Admiral's Cup over 22 years ago now. So it's been great for the town, it's been great for the island, and hopefully we can keep that going in 2 years' time.
As I said earlier, the planning will continue, and we'll be looking ahead to the next 2 years and the next 100 years as well. Jeremy, great to chat to you. Thank you very much for your time here on this. I know you have a busy day ahead. But as I said earlier, the race is just beginning. And don't forget, you can follow the whole race online. Just use the tracker. Loads of updates from the boats themselves on our live blog at rolexfastnetrace.com. And you'll find us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok and on X. There's even a virtual regatta if you want to take part in the race from the comfort of your armchair. Sure, why wouldn't you? But for now, let's return to the water and get the final thoughts of Andy and Nikki. Andy, Nikki, I mean, how would you even try to sum up that start for us?
Well, to say how lonely it feels now. I mean, there's just no one around anymore. And Nikki, you've got pangs. You've got pangs. You're jealous now, aren't you?
I feel jealous. Yes, it's not often that I get to sit on this side of the water, and yeah, I do. I feel jealous of when they exit the Solent and they get into their rhythm. And some people go off watch, and life just simplifies. It's a really, really beautiful thing, especially for the sort of slightly slower boats, you know, have got maybe a week ahead of them, they're gonna start a whole new existence on this planet, looking at life from the other side of the shore.
And one of the things that's in short supply these days in the always-on online world that we're in is when you go out there, you disconnect. It's a bit like being on an aeroplane when there's no internet, but sort of 10 times that, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a beauty that, you know, now we have got internet and we can send out stories. And I really encourage people to look at the blogs, because the stories are what this is about. You know, 24/7 on a boat for 5 days, like, a lot happens. But at the same time, as you say, it's this haven where you're so present and you're so focused on the job in hand, the wind right now, how are the crew doing, how are you doing, that all of the other stuff fades into insignificance. You don't need the internet, you don't need the connectivity. It's so fulfilling. That's why I'm jealous. How about you, Andy?
If there is a spare boat in the Medina, you and I are going to steal it and we're going to join them. We're going to be late, but we're going to join them.
Nikki, Andy, it's been great. And Nikki, happy birthday again. I feel like I should have been singing happy birthday throughout this to you. We didn't quite get round to it. What a shame. Everybody's grateful that I'm not singing. And Dee and Hannah are back with us. You're not going to break into song anytime soon. No, thank goodness for everybody. But look, it is done. Yes, the start of the 51st Rolex Fastnet race. Some huge moments there. Hannah, you're going to start things off for us. What's your pick?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a number of amazing starts, and we were right next to the action. So, you know, early on we had the old teams and the multi-hulls lining up. They were looking to get away from that start line as quick as possible. But for me, the best start of the day went to Choose, the Volvo 70, who approached the line on starboard, just made a lovely tack onto port in plenty of space into the middle of the Solent, and they're off from there.
And Dee, for you, what's your key moment? I feel like you couldn't limit you to one.
No, I really struggled for one moment, and I think Hannah nailed the moment of the day. But I think also just seeing the acceleration, even in light airs with the Imocas, they were really line shy. But actually the acceleration that Jon Rishon got on Akio Paprick, it was just like he just put his foot on the gas and off he went. And it was just really beautiful to see. And then, of course, you've got to go to the congestion, haven't you?
Yes, I think that's fair to say, Hannah. I mean, there was a frantic start, and it was interesting. It was almost contagious within some of the classes, wasn't it? Because some of them, if one kind of got caught up in the moment, then they all did. And then there was another where there was a sense of calm around it all. But it is contagious.
Yeah, that's right. And we have this saying in sailing that you can't win the event on the first day of regatta, but you can lose it. And, you know, obviously this is one race, but I think the same can be said for the start. You can't necessarily win the race from the start, but you can certainly make it a much harder job for yourself to catch up. And we saw that definitely, you know, with some of the fleets that were really trying to push for this end of the start line. For example, the Admiral's Cup fleet start, there was so many boats really trying to absolutely win the start. It's such high risk, and there was so many boats who were just trying to really, really make their mark so early on. But actually, you know, if you end up having to go behind those boats, you're giving way, which makes it much harder, and then you put yourself on the back foot from there. Plus, the stress levels go up when you're that close in contention. So a bit of risk versus reward for all of the sailors, but amazing to see such close racing early on.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'd agree with that. And we made the comment at the time with the Admiral's Cup too. It's just that we'd expect nothing less from them at that level.
They delivered exactly what we expected from them. The sailors of that calibre can race that hard, that close to the line. And it shows, you know, they were right on top of each other and dipping and ducking, but nobody was over. But then you go to, say, the Class 40 start, or some of the other starts that we saw, where we saw those that were over the line early and take that 2-hour penalty. And that's just the excitement, the underestimation of the tidal flow, and you know, that frustration now that they're going to carry, because they were like, oh, I didn't quite get the start right, and now they've got to find 2 hours somewhere on the racecourse to get ahead of their competition.
And that sense of frustration, Hannah, I mean, there's nothing you can do at this point. It's about getting the head down and just having to get on with things, and that's part of a winner's mentality too.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the change in pace on board is really important. You go from the excitement, the build up to the start. You have to have a lot of energy. The intensity needs to be there for this first part of the race. But then as soon as you leave the Solent, that needs to change. You need to settle into your rhythm, get used to life on board, get into your routines, make the right decisions, make sure the boat is going fast, and being able to calm yourself down, have a good environment on board for that to happen is really, really key at this point.
Absolutely, and it is early in the days. Dee, Hannah, thank you. We've got loads of you getting in touch at home today as well. Everybody enjoying this. Let's start with Sophie Wilkinson, who says, go Astrid, good luck, have fun. Annalisa says, safe race to all of the boats. Michael's been in touch. He says, face winds to all the crew. Special greetings to the young team of Lo van Bremen. Your hard work and preparation will carry you far. May you race strong and finish safe. Hodgo says, go the Aussies. A lot of that today. Whisper, the Sydney boat. My son is sailing his first Fastnet race. And James says, good luck to Team Endeavour and Fujitsu British soldiers. Stay safe. Dee, look, it's hard to compare because we think back to the last, how different the conditions were. And today just feels like this could be the start of something quite special.
I think so. I think the fact that it's so much calmer, the people were out in T-shirts and wet weather gear, you know, there's a whole different atmosphere. And then it becomes a tactical game. It's strategy, it's tactics, it's not survival. And I think that's the difference. The last two editions have been a little bit of survival first and then, oh, we're worried about which direction we're going in afterwards. This is now, okay, it's race face, it's race on, it's game on, and we got to get it right. There shouldn't be a fear of breakage, or anything can happen on a boat, we know that, but you're really confident. So now it's all about performance and delivery and getting 100% out of the crew and the boat. And that's what you've got to sustain for the whole length of the race.
And Hannah, you know, it's the first hurdle in a way. What's happening right now on board? Is it that kind of sense of almost relief or excitement? What goes through your mind at this point?
I think it's, you know, the nerves have had a time to settle in, settle down, and now it's about really settling into your routines. The boats will all have a plan for a watch system where they plan to have a number of people on deck and a number of people resting. As soon as you leave the Solent, you've got to get into those routines, settle into life on board. And Nikki mentioned how different that can be in terms of what you choose to spend your energy on, and it's got to be that routine of sailing fast, sailing the right way, making sure you're taking on enough energy on board and resting when you can. And that can be quite tricky at the beginning, but the quicker you can get into that mindset and make good decisions, sail the boat fast, the further you're going to be up the leaderboard.
Absolutely, and we will be watching very closely. Hannah, Dee, thanks so much for your time this morning or this afternoon. Can I say thank you as well to Nikki, Andy and Louie. And there we go, 100 years ago, 7 boats lined up here on the Isle of Wight, whose name will be engraved on the Fastnet Challenge Cup alongside some of offshore sailing's legends. We can only wait to find out. Thank you so much for your company. If you've missed any of the action this afternoon, you can watch a full replay of the start shortly. And we're going to leave the final word now to those who this is all about, the sailors, and what the Rolex Fastnet race means to them.
Great camaraderie with all the participation and a great sense of achievement when you get to the finish.
Fun, challenging and exhilarating.
I would feel very proud of myself. I would feel very proud of my crew. I would feel very, very proud of the achievements.